Hi there folks, welcome back to RRTV for part 2 of the Spa 10 hour and for the Selby Endurance Sports Car Championship. I'll get it right in a moment. Basically, you'll be watching a replay of this. We had some technical issues going live, so when you see this it will be a replay, but it's been broadcast at the same time. But I'd like to welcome to the Combox Daniel Leet. Welcome, Daniel. We're under safety car once again.
Yeah, g'day Bernie and viewers. We're under safety car again. Looks like this one's been brought out just due to a spin in Puon from RD4 team. So they've just had a wiggle, gone into the wall, and here we are under safety car again.
Yeah, so we've seen a few safety cars since we left this morning, folks, and I think this is the second one I've seen. Possibly you might have seen another one before that, Daniel.
Yeah, I think we're possibly third or fourth currently. There's been a few just through a few spins where people have collided. Most of the guys sort of seem to be going pretty well though, so this might help just bunch the field up, make it that little bit more exciting moving on.
Yeah, definitely will bunch them up. We're down to 21 cars out there at the moment, folks. We started with, I think it was about 26. We had 2 retirements this morning, and the 211 since we left this morning has also retired. That was the last of the Porsche Cup cars. We only had 2 Porsche Cups today. We had the Laser Racing entry, which retired this morning, and then we had the 211, which was leading, and they've retired that car now as well because they had no competitors. They felt it was boring. Not only that, folks, but they've also requested that they can change class due to the poor showing of the Porsche Cup. So that's a real shame, Daniel, to potentially have this class now fold due to lack of participation.
It is. I mean, the Porsche is a great car to drive. It's a really driver-orientated sort of car. Looking at it today, 2 cars in there, it's not a great turnout for these guys. So, it looks like we probably need to try and either drum up a bit more support out of the community to get some cars and teams involved in this one, or they may look at folding it and replacing that car with another class as well.
Yeah, well, that's going to be something that the teams are going to have to look at and make a decision, or not the teams, the race control, and to make a decision. The other big news this morning, folks, something very unprecedented occurred for RRTV in the broadcast and this series, and that was, Daniel, at about 11:15 this morning, the race was red flagged, and that was due to problems with the server, and they had to all jump out and go to a different server.
Yeah, that's not something I've ever heard of or seen in the endurance races before. So a lot of the guys probably dodged a bit of a curveball there. They'll likely to get their fast repairs and the incident caps obviously will be a reset. So for the guys that were sort of struggling, it's almost like a get out of free jail card, isn't it?
Yeah, it would have been, because a lot of teams are up to their cap of around about 25 incident points. They had 93 in total to last them 10 hours. They also had 2 fast repairs. So from what I understand, when they went into the new server, they were placed in the position they were in. Now, a couple of things there. One was the incident points were all reset. The other one was the fast repairs would have all been reset. The third one was most likely was the number of laps down the cars were probably reset as well. But race control, I think, did the right call. The problem with it, folks, was that the server was set up with a maximum of 2 drivers per car, and some of these teams have 3 or 4 drivers, and it only became apparent when they came up to the next round of pit stops and their 3rd drivers couldn't get into the server.
Yeah, and that would have been really awkward for these guys too, because no doubt at the beginning of the race they would have had at least one spotter in there. So either he's jumping into the car and they continue as 2, or 10 hours for 2 people at a track like this, that's a hell of a long day. So I think the race organisers have done a really good idea, and like we say, reset the server and start it again. So I think it's not something that happens ever, really. So one of those out of the blue circumstances, but organisers were quick to jump on board and get it rectified and get the event up and running again.
Yeah, exactly right, and that's what they did. We ended the broadcast this morning, folks, about 11:30am. While that was all being done, we felt that we were going off air at 12 anyway, and it was going to take them a while to get things organised. But we're back to yellow flag here at Spa, folks. It will go through the positions at the moment of each class, so you can see where your favourite driver sits. So the top 10 in Class A, Fusion Sim Racing are leading Dynamic Sim Racing 4 in second. Third is Dynamic Sim Racing 3. Fourth, we have Redback Racing Team White, followed by Redback Racing Team Black in fifth. 6 is Misfit Motorsport, Dynamic Sim Racing, 1 lap down, that's Dynamic Sim Racing 2 in 7th. Redback Racing Team Red, this car was running second this morning and leading in some instances. They have now dropped 3 laps down and sitting in 8th. Dynamic Sim Racing 1, they are also 3 laps down, sitting in 9th, and LMTI sitting in 10th, also 3 laps down.
Yeah, and hopefully too, if these safety cars come out, those guys that are a lap or two off are probably likely to gain that up. Although we're sort of nearing 3 hours to go, so it's a big ask, but I think they can do it.
Yeah, if they keep on coming out, then they will. And it's interesting, this morning we had a couple of safety cars. This afternoon it looks like we're getting the safety car breeding safety car situation. Looking at Class B, Fusion Sim Racing, the 347, is leading that class, followed by Lone Wolf Sim Racers. Then we've got Proforce Racing GTI sitting in third, and they're the only cars on the lead lap in that class. Then we have Arm Racing in fourth, followed by Tryhards Racing 1 in fifth. Swift Racing, they are sitting in sixth at the moment. Race on Oz, the number 1. This car actually started from the pits this morning, and they've managed to work themselves up to seventh from the back of the field. So they are now sitting 2 laps down. Fusion Sim Racing 348 is sitting 3 laps down in 8th, and it looks like the Selby.com.au racing team has just retired, and we saw that into the fence earlier, and we'll discuss that. And then finally, rounding out your top 10 is Razorback Racers 2, and this car's 30 laps down, the 321. So I would say the 321 is also has also just retired 30 laps ago.
Yeah, so there's going to be a few cars here, especially in that are on the lead lap in that GT3. They're going to be set another good battle again now that the field's compressed under this safety car. And those few guys we spoke of, Arm Racing, Tryhards, Swift and Race on Z, they're 1 lap off the pace, so they've got a really good chance to gain that up. We could see 8 cars here battling for the class lead there pretty soon, I'd say. And like I said, Race on Oz, they've come from the back of the field, so stellar drive from those guys, and got very lucky, especially with the unfortunate issues on the server. So they're in with a strong chance as well.
Yeah, exactly right, and it's going to be interesting to see how long have we got. Let's bring this up and have a look. 3 hours and 7 minutes of this racing to go, and we'll see how it shakes out. Looking at Class C, well, that's been decided. Well done to Extreme Racing, the 211. They won once the laser racing car retired, and as we were saying earlier, they've retired that car now, and there's no Porsche Cups cars running, and as we were saying, the 211, they have requested to change classes due to the lack of participation in Class C.
Yeah, and like we said, that's a shame, especially that car is great to drive. It's very easy as far as setup's concerned, so to only have one, once this came back, go and be able to stop, that's it's a win, it's a hollow win for them, but if they get the option to move up to GT3 class, they're going to be in for a long competition and really good fight moving forward, I think.
Yeah, exactly right, and they've even said they'd be happy to drop their points just to have some competitors to run in. We've also got in the Combook box at the moment, Combooks, sounds like a New Zealander, Daniel Benefield. Welcome, Daniel. We've noticed your car's a couple of laps down at the moment, sitting in 11th in the pits. What's going on?
Wheel failure and went straight in the wall at Pouillon, so yeah.
Okay, so that's why we got the safety car out, no doubt.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what to say. I mean, the first half of the race was so good, and then, as it always seems to, for whatever reason, everything turned south.
So you were in the car at the time?
Yeah, and force feedback went through no name corner, and then came back, and then it went again through Pouillon and turned the car around, or the car went around just as the force feedback's gone and then come back.
Yeah, we're just having a look at it. Boy, you went in the fence hard. Yeah, we're just having a look at the replay while you were talking about that, and it looks like there would have been a lot of damage to that car. Did you have any fast repairs, or...?
Yeah, we had one left, but I don't think Dean got around to selecting it, so I'm not sure if what's happening there at the moment.
Okay, that's very unfortunate indeed. But your two other cars in there, you got Phil Hobbs and Warren Pickering still on the lead lap in 4th and 5th place, so 2 out of 3 is not too bad. As far as your car goes though, do you think you're going to get it back out?
I think that's the plan. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I can't do anything anymore, and to be honest, I'm just really annoyed at the moment. I mean, we had such a good pace, we were in such a good position, and team drove absolutely brilliantly in his stint, and it's all just turned to nothing again.
Yeah, it must be really frustrating, but you know that's the challenge of enduros, isn't it? The whole challenge of getting the car through, and unfortunately, like real life racing, things fail, and we've seen it a lot of times with various cars where, for no apparent reason, their hardware just fails mid race or mid corner, and it can end the race just like in real life.
Yeah, it is annoying, but I mean, I guess it does happen, so we'll look on to the next one, and I'll see if I need to invest in a new wheel or not.
Yeah, so is this the first time you've had a steering failure?
Yeah, it's the first time that the CSW's gone on me in 2 years, so...
Okay. Yeah, that's a strange one. Hopefully you can get it either serviced or looked at, and because it cost a bit of money to replace one of those, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it was over here because it felt a bit hot, so I'm not sure if the fans just failed or what it is. I'll look into it during the week, probably sometime.
No worries at all. And can you do us a big favour? Just let the drivers know, if you can, I don't know how, that we are broadcasting. We're just broadcasting locally due to technical issues, and we'll be uploading it tonight. So when you're watching this, folks, we've actually finished, and we're in bed, and you're watching a replay. That's the beauty of television, I guess.
Yeah, I'll let them all know, Benny.
No worries. But before we let you go, do you want to give a shout out to your sponsor?
Yeah, well, you guys are doing all the work you guys do, and Secure Safe Storage, they do a lot for us as well, so we'd like to thank both you and them. Fantastic.
Well, we're going to be going back green racing very shortly here, and going from there. So that was Daniel Benefield from Redback Racing, the 101, and it's looking a bit iffy for that car at the moment, Daniel.
Yeah, like if they've either not been able to select one of their fast repairs or we're out of them, that could be a long wait in the pit lane for that work to be repaired, if it can be repaired. It looked a little bit suspect when the incident occurred for them, so having found out now that it's some kind of a hardware failure, it kind of makes sense as to why the car's reacted the way it has and hit the wall as hard as it did.
Yeah, it was looking pretty squirrely, going through no name, and then again you could see how it's just gone sideways.
Yeah, definitely, and especially for us, like we don't get the sensation that real world drivers will get with the feel of the curbs and the car flexing and moving. So when that force feedback in our wheels dies, it's all over. Good night, and come back again next time.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's no second chances when that happens.
No, not at all. I mean, I think you can get away with it on the ovals. I'm sure I've read somewhere where there are a few very quick guys who drive with next to no force feedback. Personally, I can't do it. I need to be able to feel what's happening, and especially on a road course, there'd be nothing worse than that effect happening.
Oh, exactly right. It happened to me once. I had a Logitech and I was racing it, and all of a sudden I lost force feedback and the car was undrivable. It's amazing how much once you have force feedback, how much you rely on it to actually steer the car. Yeah,
absolutely. I think with the progression of things like motion systems and obviously SimVibe and the likes, that will sort of help negate needing all that feel, but unless you've got the dollars to put behind and get on board with it, your wheel is your life side to get around in this thing.
Well, exactly right. We drive, we don't have seat of the pants. The seat of the pants comes through the wheel, and the rest of it's through potentially, as you said, different SimVibe rattlers or whatever you want to call it, and our eyes. But we're back here racing. Justin Richardson, he got a great start. And I tell you what, him and Heath Brannan, they have bolted, and they've got a huge gap back to Mark Rayner in the 117 and Michael Trooper in the 103.
Yeah, they've been able to get through the traffic quite well. I think there was only the arm car just in front of them on the start line, so having a bit of a gap is going to help them extend and give them, the guys behind, a chance to sort of go after them.
Yeah, and we can see Michael Trooper and Brett Wilson 4th and 5th at the moment. They're caught up between some of the GT3 cars, which is part and parcel of endurance racing. They've just gone past, I think, the race on Oscar, and then they've got the ARM car ahead of them. But if we look further down the track, already going through Pujon is Justin Richardson. Heath Brennan is following now, just coming into Pujon. Then we've got Mark Rayner right behind him, Michael Trooper and Brett Wilson. So the big winner of this restart is Justin Richardson with a massive gap.
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether Justin's either he's just made an incredible start to get away, or he possibly could have been on the back end of the pit lane as well, because I think they went green not long after that round of stops there too. So if he's leading, he's got a impressive lead to begin with. So you're going to be very hard pressed to get caught up, I think.
Yeah, well, what happened was, I think he actually went, he put the foot down on the top straight, and Spa's a bit funny because the start-finish line, or the start line's actually around the hairpin, and the finish line is on that straight where he accelerated, and I have a feeling the rest of the field didn't go with him because they were probably confused as to where they can go from. So the field, I think, just sat there and wondered what the heck was going on.
Yeah, it's one of the weird tracks. There's not many where we've got split starting line and finishing line. So if he's been able to obviously make as good a move as he has and gap the entire field to the tune that he has, like, good on him for reading the rule book the way it is and interpreting it his way. And I think the guys behind coming up on another safety car will obviously be aware of that, and hopefully that won't happen again.
Yeah, that's right, and it's like any sport, isn't it? If there's any way you can take an advantage, especially in motor racing, you will take it, and especially if you find some fine print that basically doesn't stop you doing something, then by all means take that advantage.
Absolutely, and worry about the officials making a rule on it later on. So I think we saw something similar for the blown diffusers that Red Bull used to run in the Formula 1. So interpretation is the main thing, and if you can eke out those few bits of performance somewhere, by all means go for it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we've seen it a few times in the V8 supercars in real life as well. And it's just one of those things in competitive sport. You've got to take the opportunities as they present them and exploit them as much as you can.
Absolutely, and that's what makes it so enjoyable. Is for something like this, the identical cars, obviously, we can't make an adjustment to a car once the races start. So if you can read a jump on a restart and get the advantage that way, you've done your job quite well then.
Yeah, that's right. And if we look at what sort of advantage he got from that, 11.26 seconds is the gap at the moment. And we can see the second place car coming through now. We'll see what that gap is as he comes across. It's now moved back to 13 seconds is the advantage. So that's massive after a couple of laps.
Absolutely. And now that you've got second and third battling for position there, that gap's only going to extend. So these guys are likely to start slowing each other up, trying to get past, so they can get into line and head down, bum up. They might be able to close that down, but looks too like they've got a few cars up in front that they're going to have to negotiate as well.
Well, that's exactly it, and we can see that, as you said, they're not only slowing each other up, but they do have other cars to negotiate, and Justin Richardson at the moment just has free, fresh air, and no doubt they are going to want to make these guys hurt as much as they possibly can, and take that advantage, as we've said.
Absolutely, and I see looks like car 101 is back out on track, but that car's looking very loose in the rear, so second and third, they're going to have to keep an eye on that coming up to that car, and just sort of be wary that he doesn't look like he's got the most rear grip at the moment, so that could make it a bit more exciting as this gets going.
Yeah, well, he's carrying a lot of front end damage, and as you've said, the rear wing is also damaged, so he's going to be lacking top end speed as well as potential handling, as you called it.
Yeah, which is a shame. Like Daniel was saying when he was in the box just before, they had a really strong car, so to unfortunately have had the issue they've had now and not being able to either use a fast repair or have had to rely on what iRacing can give them as far as a pit repair. I think they're going to be crying to get that car cleaned up and back up to top speed again pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly right, and I don't know what they can do. No doubt they're going to just say to Dean, hang on to it, and we'll fix it next time we have a scheduled stop, if you can. The other big question mark over this, though, is whether Daniel can get back in the car. I'm assuming he's normally the main driver, so hopefully he's had his minimum laps in. I'm pretty sure he would have with 2 hours 53 to go. But that puts a big responsibility on Dean Briffa's shoulders now to potentially be in this car for the next 2 hours and 53 minutes. Yeah,
absolutely. So either he can, if Daniel's able to try and get the temperatures down, maybe that wheel will restart and he might be fine again. But looking at his drive time, I think he's quite safe for having completed the minimum drive time at the moment. So, like you say, Dean's possibly left here holding the fort and taking it home to the end of this rate.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job out there in the times he's setting. I don't think the times are that much different between Dean and Daniel, so they're well matched there. Looking at Class B, well, Fusion Sim Racing are leading this class still, and their nearest challenger is really the Sean Thompson, he's not that far behind. Last time across the line, the gap was 2 seconds. But they look a lot closer than 2 seconds as they come onto Camel Straight.
Yeah, definitely. And Mercedes, Sean's probably not in the position at the moment to get the draft from the car in front. But if he keeps the times consistent and can get that little bit under brakes, he'll hit that pretty quick. And then that position 1 and 2 for class will definitely be on.
Yeah, it certainly will be. And these guys have been going at it all day. And then in third we have Brett Hender in the 323, and right behind him, well, not right behind him, sorry, and behind him's the Motorless Motorsport, but they're not actually racing for position at the moment. So he's got a nice comfortable gap back to Benjamin Smith, who's a 341, and he's a lap down.
Yeah, and the race on Oscar, we saw that in some issues earlier with the Selby car as well. So they've looks like they've been able to use one of their quick repairs, get the car tidied up, and are back trying to make good progress towards the front of their class again as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just having a read of the. Let's have a look. 1 minute. Yeah, so basically we can confirm, folks, the 314 has retired, and they've had to park that car after we saw Nathan Hapatz just before we came on air actually going hard in Puon. He actually collected two cars came together, and unfortunately the Selby car could not continue after that incident.
And that's a shame too. Those guys were running quite well today, and I think Nathan, he's done exceptionally well coming back from that sore leg that he's had. So it's unfortunate that obviously it's ruined their race, but it's a good get back in the mix and get going again. So I think we'll see them better and stronger next race.
Oh yeah, for sure. They always bounce back, don't they? And they always do a great job. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And when you get into these types of endurance events too, you could spend a good 2 weeks developing that setup of the car. So any time they can spend will be really good for them.
Oh, definitely. And Nathan's coming back from a broken leg, so it was the first time he was in the car since he broke it. And I'm sure hitting the wall as hard as he did, I bet you he's grateful that it was a simulation, because he wouldn't have hopefully had any more damage done to that leg.
No, he'll feel probably a little sore from getting back up to speed and having to use that again. So grab a few bags of peas or a big lot of ice and ice the leg up and then get back to it again.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's interesting in Class B at the moment. We've got the top 3 on the lead lap. That's Andrew Gaines, Sean Thompson, Brett Hender are all on the lead lap. Then we look back from 3rd to 6th. So we've got Benjamin Smith. He is only probably a couple of seconds up the road to Matthew Dignam in 2nd position in the 340. And again, probably about 3 seconds down the road is Eric Thorpe in the 393. And then further down the track is Brett Woods. But Brett has a long way to go. So we do have 2 groups of 3 cars battling it out at the moment in Class B.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really exciting to see how that sort of unfolds with the last, what have we got, 3 and a bit hours to go, 2 hours 45 to go. So if the guys that are in that second packet get a little lucky with a few safety cars and are able to get wave arounds, that's going to make for very exciting once they all condense again.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'll be back in a minute, folks. I'm still here. I'm just typing something, Daniel. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Aren't I a great player?
Yeah, no worries. And actually, we've just seen, looks like one of the Redback racing cars in the wall at Huon. Just trying to work out who was behind the wheel of that. It was the 101 car again, folks. He's had a spin coming through Puon. Similar sort of thing to Daniel. Looks like the rears just got away and then a bit of a tank slapper, which has sent them off. They've kept it off the wall, so he lights the tyres up and gets back underway again as well for that one.
Okay, so that'll stop a safety car potentially coming out, which is probably good because we've had a few in the last hour.
Yeah, definitely. It was. It looked like just a very harmless soft spin. So the car's kind of gripped up on the front, and then had that tank slapper back. And once that happens, you're kind of a bit of a passenger. So good driving to be able to sort of keep it off the walls there and not make it any worse than it already was. But they're really hurting that team by the looks of it now.
Yeah. So that was Dean Briffer you were talking about, was it?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, car 101.
See if we can bring that up. Yeah, they are definitely hurting, and this car's had pretty bad luck. It in quite a few rounds. It's been very competitive early on, but for whatever reason, whether it's bad luck or whatever, they tend to struggle as the races continue.
Yeah, and that's something that you don't want to see, especially in endurance racing. It's okay in a sprint race where if you can get through that race quick, it doesn't matter if you have a hardware failure at the end of on the last lap or once the checkered flag's on. But to have it with still 2 hours 45 to go, it undoes all the good work that's happened so far in the race. And these guys now will probably use this like an extended test session, get a good read on tyre wear and possible setup changes they're going to make going on to the next round now.
Oh, definitely. It becomes a test session for them, as you said. And it's so gutting, isn't it? We could hear the frustration in Daniel Benefield's voice when he came up. And if people don't think sim racers aren't passionate and don't feel the pain as much as real-world drivers when things go wrong, you just have to listen to his voice and you can just hear it. Yeah,
definitely. It's the amount of time that these guys will be putting in to get up to speed, get the cars where they want, get all the drivers on board. It's not a 10-minute throw a setup at it and have a go. They're working incredibly hard to get where they are. So everyone on the team, not just the guy behind the wheel, but the entire team feel pretty dejected if they do have to pull it out for some reason. And it's nothing. Not what anyone wants to see happen. Everyone wants to be able to get through the end, but like real world stuff, you could have that odd mechanical failure, be it a wheel or real world life. You might have a fueling issue or something like that. So it's 100% out of control of these guys, but it's still horribly gut wrenching when it happens.
Oh, it certainly is, and they also have to do the walk back to the pits and virtually explain to their teammates exactly what's gone wrong, and they're just as accountable as real-world drivers, and no doubt the debriefings can be just as spicy.
Oh, absolutely, and now that this e-sport is getting as big as it is, you've got sponsors that are starting to come on board, be it paid or unpaid sponsors. Everyone wants to put on a good show for those guys, and like I say, it's a hard thing when it happens, and it's not where you want to finish out the end of your day, 8 hours into a race, and out goes the car.
Oh, exactly right. There's a lot of accountability, but it looks like we have Mr. Reece Gardner in the green room. We'll bring him up, have a chat. They're running second at the moment, but they're 17 seconds behind the leader, so we'll have a chat to him about that restart, I think. Hi Reece, welcome to RRTV's Combox. We're having a look at your car at the moment. Looks like you may have just dropped back to third position.
Yeah, we did. We didn't. Sorry, it's. I'm still recovering from my own stint. It's been quite a heavy race for me, but yeah. Richardson stayed out, and Rayner is looking quite aggressive. So yeah, we're playing the safe game at the moment. As long as we're in it by the end, we should be good.
Yeah, well, it's all about staying on that lead lap, isn't it? At this stage, we've still got 2 hours 42 to go. We had a look at the restart, and we noticed Mark went really early. Did that confuse anyone, or was it just that he got a great start and you guys just didn't get on the gas quick enough?
I wasn't here when that happened, so I don't know the details about that, unfortunately.
Okay, well, it's all looking like it's changed, but yeah, the gap, he got about a 13-second gap in about 2 laps. That's a bit strange, but yeah, I mean, we've been looking at the way guys have been behaving on the restarts, and apparently, according to the rule book, it's fine. You can do whatever you like on the restarts as long as you don't pass cars before the green. Okay, well, that's what we thought. We were talking about it, and we were saying, well, he went very, very early. Actually, before the finish line, he went just after the chicane. And we were saying, well, if it's not in the rule book, it's open to exploitation, which, as everyone knows in motorsport, if it's not in the rule book and you can exploit it and get an advantage, then most of the time people are going to take it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was I think it might have been changed from the old AEC rule book, and in that one it was stated that you aren't allowed to actually get on the gas until the green flag is waved. So I don't know if the ESCC admins have changed the wording of those rules or not, but yeah, I mean, we've been studying the rule book fairly closely. You know, two of the guys on our team are the guys that wrote the original draft of that rule book, so yeah, as far as we can tell, it's fair game as long as you don't pass people. But of course, clarification would be good.
Oh, we're just riding with Heath there. You saw it as well, did you?
Yeah, I really oof. If there's an HPD coming out of Blanchimont, just stay right, please.
Yeah.
With a heartache.
Yeah, we're actually on the gyro cam with Heath just as that happened, so it was a bit of a clenching moment. We just clarified the reason why Heath's closed up on the leader is because the leaders actually had their second pit stop, and the gap was so significant it looks like they've got that stop and come out still in the lead. Or have they?
Yeah, well,
oh no, they haven't. Sorry, dropped down to 5th. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. But yeah, that's basically cleansed us apart from Rayner, of course. But you know, we've still got 2 hours and 40 minutes to go. Anything can happen. Heath has been very consistent, very good driver in this race, and Craig has been doing fantastically as well. So when we eventually put him back in the car, yeah, we're feeling pretty confident about our chances.
Oh, definitely. Well, Craig was the fastest driver in H lap, and he pretty much started from pole and did a fantastic job. But then of course we had the unprecedented red flag, first time I've ever seen that in iRacing, the red flag coming out and having to swap servers, so that would have been interesting for the drivers and the teams to go through.
Yeah, certainly. I think I may have been actually the first person to notice the mistake that had been made. It was early on in the race, and we were motoring on as usual. Craig was still in the car, and I'm just checking the info tab just to check the track temperature. My eyes move over to team driving, and I go, guys, have you noticed that the max drivers allowed is 2? And we all collectively panicked. And so, yeah, took a screenshot of that, got on Alan, and fortunately we've gotten it all sorted.
Yeah, I've got to commend Alan for acting on it so quickly and making that call. It's a pretty gutsy call to say, okay, well, we're going to red flag the race and move everyone over. But I know if he hadn't have made that call, it would have been a heck of a lot harder for a lot of teams, and yeah, so I commend him for doing that.
Oh yes, certainly. You know, it's difficult to make decisions on the fly like that when you're in race control, but you know, you got to do what's best for the good of the race, and at least we've managed to get a race, full stop. That's what we've been telling ourselves down in the FSR camp. So yeah, reduced obviously, and you know, some cars got a second chance that that previously wouldn't have, but yeah, it's everyone's in the same boat. Basically just got to treat it as a long 2-hour qualifying race and then an 8-hour feature race, basically.
Yeah, well, it still took its toll. We had a few cars retire in the first 2 hours, which didn't take to the field in the second part of the race, which that was upheld, so that was good. Yeah, but I can guarantee if they hadn't have done that, there would have been a lot of very tired drivers and probably quite a few retirements at about now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we before Alan made the decision, we were actually discussing like who do we put in the car to keep Craig company, because you know there's a chance we might have to do the entire 10 hours with just 2 guys. Yeah, thankfully that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's right, and everyone got a drive. I know at Fusion Sim Racing you guys like to go deep in your driver's stints, but I think that would have been a bit even too deep for your team.
Oh yeah, it would have been too much for a 10-hour race, definitely.
Yeah, so apart from that, it's going to plan for you guys, and sitting in second position, the car's looking good. How's the incident caps going? you don't have to tell us exactly, so the other teams won't know because we're not broadcasting live anyway.
That's true. Well, yeah, we're currently on 28. It doesn't really phase us that much. We've been one of our major priorities was keeping incident counts down. Most of those incidents are me with my mistakes that I made during my stint. But we've got a low incident count, and I think we're safe.
Fantastic, and I don't want to hog all your time. We've got Daniel Lead up here with me, so Daniel, I'm going to hand you over to Reese, and or Reese, I'm handing you over to Daniel. Daniel, this is Reese, Daniel, whatever.
Hello.
Have a chat.
Hey, mate. Yeah, look, g'day, Reese. Thanks for joining us here, mate. Just a couple of questions for you, mate. How are you finding the track's rubbering up now? We've 5 hours on it. Is the car starting to come to you guys for the last part of the race now?
Oh yeah, the car's been good for the last part of Heath's stint and most of mine. We basically built this car for a rubbered-in track. So when the track wasn't as rubbered up and it didn't come into its own at the start of the race, it was a little bit twitchy. We were sort of iffy on whether or not we would double stint tyres and stuff like that, but thankfully it's come to us and the car is hooked up. It's fantastic to drive at the moment.
So I guess on the next part, are you able to find you can double stint the tyres now?
Yes, yeah, we've been doing that for most of the race, and I think the majority of the HPD field has been doing that.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, kind of starting a little side petition here. With the driver team lineup you guys have got, are you likely to start fielding a Porsche now that we've only had two cars enter it as of this race?
In the Porsche class?
Yeah.
Porsche was on the cards before we decided to officially submit our entries, but there's not much interest in submitting a Porsche entry. Our strengths are in prototype and GT3, so we're going to stick to that. It's unfortunate that the Porsche field is as small as it is now, but I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, look, it's a little unfortunate. I find it a great car, so hopefully these guys may be able to get a few more on the grid. But looking forward to the end of the race. Are you likely to be back in the car before the end?
Oh no, I'm done. I'm completely done. It's just Heath and Craig to the end now. My middle stint of the race is over, and honestly, I don't think I'm in a state to be driving anymore anyway. I'm sort of falling asleep in my chair.
Well, actually, sorry, Bernie, I don't know if you've just seen that, but Justin Richardson and the FSR Mercedes have just come together through the last corner there. Looks like Richardson's come off probably the worst. I think he's just found the fence out of that one.
Have a look at a Blanchimont.
Yeah, he's tore that car up pretty hard there, so I think it was possibly a little over-optimistic move there, maybe.
Yeah, my opinion, that's not really the kind of move that you go for into Blanchimont. I mean, I understand that there's split-second decisions to be made in that part of the track, but if it were me, I would have just stayed behind at that point.
Yeah, I think that may have been the best call and probably better outcome for both in that one. It's a shame to see because they were running quite well. And looked like they were giving you guys a really good run for your money out there today as well.
Oh, certainly. The Dynamic Sim Racing guys have all been challenging us. Redback as well. I'm really happy that the HPD field is as competitive as it is because it's not much fun to just drive around with no one around you and pick up points. It's always good to have a bit of a race in a series like this. So yeah, fantastic stuff from the HPD field.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be very exciting towards the end. Well, we might let you get out of here and go grab a cold beer. Did you have any sponsors you wanted to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yes, certainly. I want to thank Dripping Paint Graphics, Eclipse Signage, and Dynamic Sim Racing as well. Those guys all giving us some really, really welcome support, and we're happy to be representing them well out on track.
Thanks very much for coming in again, mate. And look, if we see you guys up on the podium, we'd love to see you back in at the end of the race for a follow-up.
Oh, yep, we'll see what we can do.
Fantastic. Well, that was Reece Gardner, folks, from Fusion Sim Racing, the 145. They are sitting in second at the moment, 2 seconds down from the lead, and the leader at the moment in Class A is Dynamic Sim Racing 3. Mark Rayner is leading at the moment, or driving that car. Third in Class A is Redback Racing, Team White, and Michael Trooper is driving at the moment, followed by Brett Wilson in Team Redback Racing, Team Black in fourth. And rounding out your top 5 is Justin Richardson. We just saw him going into the fence very hard at Blochemont. And having a look at that replay, Daniel, it looks like he cleared the Mercedes, but what his undoing was he actually caught the ripple strip, which unsettled the car.
Yeah, these cars don't have a lot of spring movement there, so any sort of curb hit like that, that's you're going to end up on the skid plates and go for the wall. So that sort of makes sense as what's happened there. But I'm kind of surprised he didn't bring that car straight into the pits after that incident and get that repaired.
Yeah, he's actually in the pits now, but I think he did a lap after that, and yeah, I'm surprised because he hit hard. He hit so hard the whole front nose of the car came off, but then iRacing magically put it back on again. But I'd say that car's got a heck of a lot of damage. We'll see if he's got a fast repair though. If not, yes, he does have a fast repair. So a get out of jail card. He's jumping out, and we'll see who's jumping in. Justin Strickland.
I was just going to say Justin Strickland's come in, so that's a good change for them. Get a fresh driver in with a clean car. So hopefully, I think tyres and fuel, and they'll be on the way again.
Yeah, that's right, and hopefully they won't have lost too much time. We can see at the moment Sean Thompson looks like he's leading Class B again now for Proforce Racing, and then we have right behind him the very lucky 347 with Andrew Gaines driving the Fusion Sim Racing entry. I say very lucky because they must have missed that HPD by only millimetres, and it must have been a very scary time for them when that occurred.
Yeah, definitely. I was almost thinking it was the same car that was kind of got hip checked off the road, but I think that was the 348 before, so similar incident, same sort of corner of the track. So I think Fusion, they're looking very strong for a good finish like they did at Phillip Island. So as the minutes count down, I think we might see them definitely going for that top step in that class again too.
Yeah, definitely, and we just showed real time from the gyro cam of Robert Spicer as that car went across. He actually went wide as well, would you believe, and right in front of him he had the HPD spinning. And I'll tell you what, presence of mind not to jump on the brakes, which would have caused this car to probably spin as well.
Absolutely, it's a very hard thing not to. Like, your first reaction obviously is always to go for the brakes and lock it up, but to keep it off the wall the way he did, and I don't think he actually received any damage from that. So great piece of driving, like you said, from him, and they'll get back in, calm down a lap or two, and go for it again. Yeah,
that's right. Just telling himself to breathe, gather himself up to move on. The other interesting thing at the moment in Class A, we've now got 5 cars back on the lead lap because of Justin Richardson's pit. But Philip Morton is the last car on the lead lap, 5th, Dynamic Sim Racing 2 team. They're 121 seconds down.
Yeah, so that's the best part of a bit over half a lap, so they're going to need a safety car probably to come their way to condense that field again and help them out. Or they start playing the fuel numbers game and see what they can stretch out to leading into the end of this race.
Yeah, well, the leaders now just coming through the Lacombs, or whatever you call it, 5th place. They're just coming down now towards the corner with no name. Yeah, so that's quite a gap that they're going to have to recover from. And just looking through on the timings here, I think Philip Morton's car, he's possibly likely going to be in pit lane before these guys. He's got another 3 or 4 laps on his tank of fuel, so he may be able to, I think he possibly might lose that position when he does come time for that stop. Yeah, well, if he's got a pit before them, he'll definitely go a lap down. All he's got to do, though, is hope that when the field is cleansed, that this car comes back up onto the lead lap again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if they get lucky with that break, they might be able to get that stop out of the way, recover the position if it's a little later, and then top off and go again.
Yeah, and this is when the drivers need to dig deep, isn't it, and stay positive, and know that he's got to keep that gap as wide as he can, and then if someone else jumps into that car, they're going to have to push that car without causing any mistakes to try to jump the leaders when they come into the pits.
Absolutely, and to get in that mindset, the minute you jump in the car, to be on it straight away. Nowadays they can't really afford that lap or two to sort of settle in and get a feel for how it's moving. You've pretty much got to get in it and drive it like you stole it to make the most out of it.
Yeah, definitely, and we just we're riding with Philip Morton there, and as he came through a Rouge there was an Audi that spun off on the infield. Fortunately, he kept it off the wall.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a spot where you'd ever want to see a car. I think that has to be the least preferred spot in all of motor racing, to see a car off on the side that's damaged.
Oh, exactly right, and just having a look at where that was. Another thing I've noticed is just having a look. It looks like Aaron Farmer's back on the server. This car retired this morning and destroyed itself basically, and they walked away. But it looks like he's jumped back on the server.
Yeah, it's good to see another car back out there if they have had those issues this morning. So, good job on the boys there to be out and running. I'd be just quickly having a look back behind Philip Morton, and look who's ranging up quite close to him now is our overall race leader, Mark Rayner there. So those guys are possibly likely to get that lap taken away from them, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah, and we're riding with our race leader at the moment, Mark Rayner. He can see them ahead of him. It looks like Philip just has Aaron Farmer behind him, so he's got a bit of a buffer, but he's definitely firmly in Mark's sights at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And having that car gap, which I think he still has, is just something that's going to help him sort of be able to extend that lead. But it looks like Aaron's actually come into pits, I believe.
Yeah, he's just dived into the pit lane, and that means basically now Mark is going to try and put a lap down on Philip. He's still holding the gap out though, so if we look at the lap time, last time through Philip did a 2:06.991, where Mark Rayner did a 2:06.300, so it was only 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, not much at all, and just to have only lost that little bit of time, especially behind another car, but he's showing really good lap speed out there at the moment, and I think just in front of him he's got one of the Fusion Sim Mercedes just ahead of him, so if he's able to clear that pretty quickly going through those quick left-handers there after this next corner, that's another car that's going to help him sort of prevent that going down that lap.
Yeah, and he's making that move now as they come into Pouon, I think it is, and he's cleared him, so that's going to hold up Mark Rayner a little bit, because he'll probably get to him as they come into the chicane area down here.
Yeah, I think he might actually clear that car quite comfortably there, but yeah, Philip's just going to have to knuckle down, get the head down, and drive like he's got nothing left in it. But like we're saying, he's probably coming up on that point where he's going to have a fuel stop soon too.
Yeah, and the Mercedes got well out of the way of the 145, who's in second, who actually cleared him at the chicane.
Yeah, so that's good driving by him, just to be aware of what's happening around him. Most of these guys, when they're out here, will have their little black box with the relatives up, or if not, they have a spotter there at least telling them who's up and around them. So good piece of driving by him. Didn't affect anyone. Or as we see an Audi just off coming out of the final chicane there as well.
Yeah, that got a bit dicey, didn't it? Because Philip Morton went side by side with him into that chicane, and the Audi went wide to avoid any conflict. That allowed Mark Rayner to close up on Philip, and so it got a bit dicey there for a bit.
It did indeed, and it looks like Heath was stuck behind him a little bit, just extended just a touch. But having said that, I mean, their times are within... Well, actually, Heath was quicker, I think, that lap than Mark by half a second, so he hasn't lost out too bad in that exchange after all.
Yeah, so looking at the cars that have retired so far, folks, the 341 is the latest retirement. That was the car that Ben Smith was in. I think that might have... No, I'm not sure if that was the Race on Oz entry. The 314, the Selby entry, has retired. After that incident, we saw Nathan into the fence down at Puhon. Michael Kaluga in the 321, they're back out and circulating. They are quite a long ways down, but they're still out there. We've also lost the 320. Zach Bevan was driving that car when it retired. The 169, Jason Hyde, has also retired. The 211 retired this afternoon or later on this morning after the restart due to lack of participation in Class C, and the car 115 retired earlier this morning, but the team's put it back together. It's taken them a long time to get that car going, but they're back out on track in 9th position.
Yeah, and it's, like we said, it's good that the guys aren't just throwing in the towel, they're coming back out. So 115, they're going to have a pretty long, good 2-hour test session in that car, and that'll be similar to with the 321 now that they're back on track as well. So it's good, it keeps the numbers in there for the race, it gives the guys something a bit more to pass for the quicker guys, and if they're lucky to, these guys are going to start moving up the places now as they come up on those slower GT cars as well.
Yeah, exactly right, and I tell you what, Phil Morton's doing a fantastic job here. He's dealing with traffic, trying to keep this car on the lead lap, and he's pretty much doing it. The gap is quite small, and to his credit, he's not actually focusing too much on his mirrors, and he's looking forward.
Yeah, and that's what you've got to do. I mean, you've still got to be mindful of the blue flags in the car behind as he lets him go at the end of the Camel Straight here, I think. But he's driving fantastically well. I think those cars too are also teammates, so I couldn't see Philip trying to hold him up or do anything to detriment their race as well, so great driving by him.
Yeah, he was driving like a true professional there, wasn't he? And there's no point fighting to the death as you go down a lap, and he is his teammate, but I'm sure even if he wasn't his teammate, he wouldn't have made it too difficult. His job now is just to sit on the back of the race leader and wait for them to come into the pits. When they do, he will no doubt get that lap straight back. Yeah,
definitely, and Philip's got pretty good consistent car speed right now, so hanging in touch with Mark there shouldn't be too much of an issue for the remainder of that stint. So I don't think he'll do anything that'll either jeopardise Heath if Heath manages to get his way up here as well. So I think it'll just be eyes forward and racing on for these two now.
Yeah, we can see Michael Trooper at the moment. His hands full. He's gone past the FSR, one of the FSR Mercedes. He's now up behind the LMTI entry, which is a lap down, and you'll want to try to clear him because he's about 3 seconds down the track from Heath Brennan, who's currently sitting second.
Yeah, I can't see the LMTI car putting up too much of a fight as he closes in through the chicane there. So, Redback have always had a really strong car, whether it's in the series last year or currently now. You know, they put on a really good show and really professional outfit the way they run. So the guys in front do a great job. They'll just step sideways somewhere up here and give them a good run through. Yeah,
that's right. I'm sure they will. And 132 laps down on this race, folks. And if you're wondering why the laps are so low, it's because, as we said earlier, the servers had to be swapped at about 11:15 after 2 hours of racing. So the real amount of laps would be probably close to, or they'd be in their 200s by now.
Yeah, I think they were 50, 60 laps down, possibly more. So yeah, 200 to 210 is probably a pretty good estimation of overall laps completed now.
Yeah, we can see Michael Trooper just going past the Swift entry, and it's sort of, he started to turn in, and then he realised there was an LMTI HPD right behind the Redback car, and he quickly changed line.
Yeah, and it's very hard to, once you're in those GT cars, whether it's the Porsche or the GT3 cars, once you pick a line, you're committed to that race. So for him to be able to spot that car last minute, either grab a little more brake or open up that steering like he did, good racecraft avoidance, and everyone makes it through and continues on. So the guys that are in these slower cars, obviously, they've got the added pressure. They've got to look forward and chase their next guy, but they've got to put a huge amount of time in their rear view, just keeping an eye on what's happening around them as well.
Oh, definitely. And we're looking at the time at the moment, folks. It's 5:08 p.m. local Australian Eastern Standard Time here, 2 hours 15. So, Daniel, this race is probably, it was due to finish at 7, but I'm predicting we're going to be going till about 7:25 tonight before we see the checkered flag. Yeah,
and that's, it might have been a little quicker, but unfortunately, like I said, those server issues happened. So it's, what's another 10-15 minutes here? It's all good fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. Although I'm starting to yawn just thinking how long we're going to be here for.
Well, you might be best to go get your obligatory coffee and get settled in and a few biscuits of that, mate, and you'll be right to go.
I've actually got my obligatory coffee here. I'm hoping to finish it before a safety car comes out, so then I can go and make another one.
Yeah, definitely. I think the normal trend for you is it gets a bit cold towards the end there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's lukewarm at the moment, so it's probably a bit too hot.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, well, fingers over the nose and down the hatch, mate, and get ready for another one.
Yeah, well, the biggest drama I've got at the moment, Daniel, is my coffee machine's packing it in. So I'm actually back to Winston, and I've noticed since going back to Winston I'm getting headaches, which I think's the coffee withdrawal from the super strong coffee I've been drinking. Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me at all. I prefer the much stronger stuff, but I'll substitute it with the odd beer here and there, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, and we're just jumping now to Heath Brennan. He's right behind Phil Morton here and trying to gain position, and he's having a little bit of trouble about it.
Yeah, but being in the position he's in now, he's got a really good draft up here, so I'd look for him to be making this move either through, just after pulling on the exit in towards the final chicane there, I think. I don't see Philip wanting to hold him up too much here, especially when the race for first and second there is so tight like it is.
Yeah, and I don't think Phil's holding him up that much. As I went through Blanchimont there, he actually extended the lead, and Heath just started closing in a bit under brakes. But to Phil's credit, he's definitely holding his own. If anything, he's probably a bit weak on the braking, but accelerating and top end speed, not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the hard thing for this is especially with the hardware that we've got now, anyone can go fast in a straight line. Your dollars and where you make your biggest amount of time is going on from brakes. And of the few sets that I've tried, going from G25s and very poorly done load cells and rubber erasers and things to the Fanatec stuff in the HPP. I mean, you get onto a really nice set of pedals, you can gain an easy 2 to 3 seconds a lap if once you get accustomed to it. Yeah,
so what pedal sets are you running at the moment?
Currently a set of Fanatec V2s, which a mate of mine's helped me customise, and I've been looking at some of those, the rubber bushes to try and give it a little more pedal feel because it's quite soft, but I had a play with a friend's HPP pedals, and those things are phenomenal. It's quite a change to having a really stiff brake, but then it's getting your head around it as well.
Yeah, and some of those brake pedals, the high-end ones, definitely they're pretty much simulating what a real race car brake pedal feels like, and what that means, folks, is you've got to really jump on the brakes to get them to pull up.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of those load cells, or whether it's be the I think the Huizenfeld PEs, I think they are. I think they start at a 50 kilo load cell and go all the way up to 100 kilos. So it's something to get your head around, especially if you go from being a right foot braker to a left foot braker and getting that muscle feel and how sensitive you've got to be with it. But for what they can do, they're fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And those sort of pedals there at the top of the tree as far as hardware goes. And I always think if they're that good now, what are they going to be like in a couple of years' time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the other thing is, though, where do they go with them if they're this good already? That I don't know. But just had a quick look just into the timing at the moment. Looks like we've got our first 4 cars are all currently on pit road at the moment. So Phil's done an exceptional job to have 4 laps longer on that set of tyres and fuel load to what the likes of Mark Rayner, Heath Brennan and Michael Triple were able to do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting now, isn't it? We're watching to see exactly how the pits go, because this is where the pit crew will earn their money.
Absolutely, and I just can't get over how long it is. It's nearly a minute trundling down the lane before you hit your pit stop here. So the endurance layout that they're running here with the longer pit lane, it gives you a lot of time to make sure you got all your settings right and what's got to change before you get to the pits. But sitting there for a minute almost while you drive down, it's you might as well get out and walk.
Yeah, and we can see Heath Brennan, he's the first one out of the pits in the 145, and Brett Wilson stayed out. Who's in there? Michael Trooper at the moment. So if we look at the time, Heath Brennan did a 19.6 second stop. That's a massive gain, isn't it? Rayner's the next one out, 44.1 second stop, and Michael Trooper's still sitting in there.
Yeah, and it looks like just going off the times for Michael and Mark, I think both of those cars have it looks like they've taken tyres, given that those times are so close. But for Heath, that looks like possibly maybe the second stint, like what Reese was saying before, where they're double stinting tyres. So 19 seconds looks to be just fuel only at this point for them.
Yeah, so they're rolling the dice, I guess, on, or they're confident that they think they can double stint those tyres. And this is when strategy comes in, and Fusion Sim Racing are one of those teams that they tend to roll the dice and they tend to know what they're doing, and that's how they get those advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they've set the car up, as Reese was saying, to be a better performer once the tracks rub it up, well, they're in a pretty good position now. 6 hours on the track. There's plenty of rubber that's laid down in all these corners. That car's only going to get quicker towards the end. And it looks like we've just got the redback car, Brett Wilson, coming down the lane, so he's not too far from his stop here. He'll be in the next 10 seconds to his pit box as well.
Yeah, and we can see now Heath Brennan coming through the chicane back onto the main straight up here. It's going to be interesting to see if Redback react to this, whether they change their strategy and try to just take fuel and double stint, or whether they go for the full tyres and the full service.
Yeah, definitely is. Looks like Heath here is just on that final corner on the main straight now, so we'll just keep a close eye on that time. But looking how it is here, it looks like Brett's actually possibly taking tyres, because they're in there for 25 seconds and counting currently. Yeah,
they're still sitting in there, and they've opted for a full service. This is where Fusion Sim Racing gets that advantage of double stinting or double stinting the tyres, and we'll see what the gap is. But yeah, Redback's still in there. They've gone 45.9 seconds was their stop, so just taking fuel, 19.6 seconds. They've made a gap gain of probably 25 seconds. Yeah,
at least. I mean, their pit stop times between, if we look at Heath and Mark there for P1 and 2, 24 seconds was the difference for the total stop. So that's free money in your pocket, basically. So if he's able to keep those tyres good for the remainder of that stint, they're in a really strong spot. But the other issue that Mark's going to have now is he'll need that lap or two to get the tyres to working temperature, and his laps may be just a touch slower while he's in the process of doing that as well.
Yeah, well, that's right. They've got to get them up to temperature and up to top speed, and then, as you were saying, that gap will stretch out. So looking at your top 5 at the moment, folks, we've got the 145 Fusion Sim Racing leading. Mark Rayner is in second in the 117 for Dynamic Sim Racing 3. Michael Troop is in the car for Redback Racing Team White in third position, and then fourth is their sister car, Redback Racing Team Black. So they've dropped from first to fourth in that pit stop, and then fifth, rounding out your top 5, is Dynamic Sim Racing 4 in fifth position, and they are the last car on the lead lap. Yeah,
so it's going to be a nice tight top 4 that we got. Justin in the Dynamic Sim Racing 4 car, he'll be a little way back at this moment, but he's also nearing halfway through that fuel stint as well. So I think he's coming up on 12 laps that he's been since his stop now. So he'll keep pushing along and go, but I think that's possible that they'll lose that position again, obviously, once they come in for that stop now.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And Class B, well, this is still battling, isn't it? Because we can see at the moment Sean Thompson, he's tucked right up behind Eric Thorpe at the moment. Eric's sitting fourth, Sean first, so he's trying to put a lap down on the fourth position. Yeah, and he's running still really good times. If we look at his last time, he was actually slightly quicker than what Sean was, but he's going to have blue flags waving. He's not going to want to hold him up, and if he does start becoming an issue, I mean, the Pro Force guys will obviously take that up to race control and try and get that car pulled out of the way. It looks like we've also had a second in class. The Fusion Sim Racing 347 has been in for a stop as well. Actually, so they're currently still in for a stop. Yeah, so they're taking service. Trent Thomas is in that car. They've been in there so far for 18.5 seconds. Yeah, it's a long time for these cars too, because obviously they don't do all 4 tyres at the same, like the HPDs or the V8 supercars in other series tend to do. They're 1 tyre at a time, so you generally see pit stops up around the 2-minute mark for these guys, which is a pretty stark contrast to the minute 20, minute 30 that we generally see in the HPDs at this time. Yeah, well, because they've got to do the fuel and then the tyres. And I'm just having a look. Trent Thomas did a 39.3 seconds. Oh, it's going to be contact. There is. Yeah, that was a hard one, especially with that HPD going up the inside. I think that kind of wanted Sean to get past that car, and I don't think there'll be any handout from that one, given that both cars got away. But that's not something that our leader in the second class wants to see. No, that's right, and we're just having a look at the replay there, and I think Sean wanted to take the inside line, but I think he got a bit balked with the HPD there, and gave the Swift a bit of a tap. I noticed that the Swift car went straight to the pits though, so maybe they've done that thinking they may have damage. Yeah, there looked to be a little bit of damage on that Swift car as well, but the contact was good of Sean not to spin that car around, but I think he was a little unsighted too. He'd kind of lost it with the Aaron Farmer car coming through in the HPD, but no major issues there. I think the Swift car will get repairs done and they'll be back underway, but I don't think Sean will probably see any penalties based on there not being any spins there and no one really sort of losing out too badly in that exchange. Yeah, it'll just come down to a racing incident, I think, and if we look at our top 5 at the moment, or top 6 in Class B, Sean Thompson, Pro Force Racing leading, the 323 now in the pits, that's a Lone Wolf Sim Racers Audi, so we've got Audi in second, Trent Thomas for Fusion Sim Racing in the 347 is in third, and they are all on the lead lap. Then we've got Joel Petrosky for Swift Racing. He's just jumped in, Eric Thorpe out, taking service there, 1 lap down now. Scott Nolan also a lap down. They are in the pits taking service for Triards Racing 1. And then we have Matthew Dignam in the 340. And he should come through now and take these guys as they're sitting in taking service.
Yeah, I think so. And his lap times recently have actually been a little quicker than the 2 cars in front as it gets past the Swift boys and the Tryhard guys while they're still completing their stops. So the ARM car has had really good pace this entire race so far, and they've had a couple as good as what the leaders are running currently.
Yeah, well, this was the pole sitter, I'm pretty sure, this morning, and they were the pace setter this morning right up until the red flag came out, or they started to fade probably about an hour and a half into the race, and so they've definitely got the pace in that car, and it's looking straight, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do. But they're now sitting in 6th position, I think. 4th. They've moved up to 4th position.
Yeah, 4th position currently, and trying to, like you say, get that lap back and get in touch with the other guys in front. But Sean Thompson's also just making his way to his pit box at the moment, so he's likely to possibly come out in at least 2nd, maybe 3rd position, depending on the times and the gaps at the moment.
Yeah, and looking at the time to go, we've got 2 hours, so these cars can run around about 1 hour on the fuel. So the GT3s will probably be expecting one more stop, and then they should just be able to get home. He's pitting right on the pit window at the moment, or right on the bubble, one could say, and if they do it in one stop, Daniel, they're going to be very, very light, to say the least, at the end of this stint and at the end of the race.
Yeah, definitely. I think they probably can do it with the one more stop after this one, but they've gone to their quick guy, Ross Rizzo, who got another great win in the Sim Racers Asia Series last night as well in the Mercedes. So he's backing up. He's quite quick in this car, so I'd expect to see them stay up towards that front, pointy end of the field, and give us a good show. But they might pull the same trick we saw in the last race at Phillip Island on the last stop and just do fuel, I'm thinking.
Yeah, just do a splash and dash and capitalise and hope they catch the other teams napping. And of course the advantage of a delayed telecast for all the teams is no matter what we say, they can't get that information till after the race, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it doesn't help anyone in this race, but hopefully we might see some of these guys come up and we might be able to get some of the trade secrets out of them as they do.
Yeah, well, we can rest, like we did with Mr. Gardner. Tell them it doesn't matter what you tell us, they can't see it till after the event. We might get a few secrets coming out of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. We'll see what happens and go from there. But Ross has got his car back underway as well, and they've maintained that lead in the race by the looks as well. So good job by those guys and the pit crew. So I think we're coming in for a good last 2 hours here now.
Yeah, I think we definitely are coming into the last 2 hours, and it will be good. The 101, it looks like they're throwing Peter Lynn into that car and used a fast repair, so it's good to see them continuing. They're 5 laps down though, and sitting in 11th.
Yeah, but that's still good points for the championship, and that's the thing, they've got to think of the big picture here, and points towards the end, it could come down to getting these few that they're going to get in this race. So I think they'll keep going quite strong, and we've seen it in the last few seasons with them as well. So it's good, and that's another car still circulating, which we all want to see as well.
Yeah, definitely, and we're down to 19 cars at the moment circulating, folks, and we've had quite a few retirements. I think we started with about 28 cars, and down to 19 at the moment. But yeah, getting back to what you're saying about good points, I know last year for the Australian Endurance Championship, TD Racing took out that championship, and they didn't actually win any of the races. It was all about the points to them, and they showed the teams that if you finish consistently in the top 5, you will, well, in their case, they took out the championship.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's a great result for them as well. So, and it all comes down to consistency. We see it in the Premier stuff like Formula One. You see it in the V8s as well. So the more consistent you can be, the more points you can haul for that season. It all adds up, and you never know. You could be the car that's walking away at the end of it with the trophy.
Well, exactly right. And when I spoke to Tim Ballinger about that, he said from the very start that's what they focused on. They weren't focusing on winning races. They were focusing on finishing strongly in the field, which they did all year. They stuck to their game plan and they walked away with the trophy. So it's good to see that consistency will reap the rewards.
Oh, definitely, and that goes to a lot to say with the guys that they're driving with. If you can get your guys consistent within similar pace and are happy with the car they're driving, there's no reason you can't do the same trick and come away with that title as well.
Exactly right, and it's just a very, I guess it's a disciplined approach, but it's the way all racing teams do it in real life, isn't it? They love to win, sure, but they also have to make sure they're bringing in those points and bringing those cars home, and it's good to see that translating across to the sim racing world.
Oh, absolutely, and we touched on it before with sponsors. You can't give your sponsor any exposure if you're parked in the garage with the doors down, can you? So it's win-win for all parties if they can stay out and keep consistent, and not only that, but even just finish the race. It helps keep the team afloat, helps keep the sponsors happy, and everyone comes back and has another crack eventually the next day.
Exactly right, and it's like that other old saying, if you need TV exposure, either run strongly up the front or make sure you have one darn big crash so you get put on the news and everything.
Absolutely. I think we saw that in I think it was one of the Sim Asia ones going back a few seasons now. At this track, one of the teams I was with at the time, I think, weren't getting much exposure and finished the race and jumped the curving at the end. And I think you guys were actually broadcasting it, and it made the race highlights at the end of the race. Yeah, everyone likes to see the action, that's for sure. And looks like we've got an interview down there with DJ's down there, and he's one of the drivers for Swift Racing. So let's bring him up, and I'll let you start this interview. Yeah, no worries. G'day, it's Daniel from the RRTV Combox, mate. How are we doing today?
Yeah, not too bad, guys. It's been a rough day on the track, but comes with the territory, doesn't it?
It does indeed. And you guys are tracking exceptionally well out there today. How are you finding the racing competition as we come towards the end here?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Been a bit of an up and down day for us. We've gone from sort of on the lead lap up at the pointy end to being a lap down after we had an unfortunate overshoot into the bus stop. Eric just missed his brake marker, and the Selby car was ahead of us, and he did everything he could to get out of the way, but he just got past it, and we don't know if it was a bit of net code with the contact, but it unfortunately put the Selby guys into the pits for a fast repair. Fair enough, we copped a penalty for it. It hurt us. We put ourselves there, but we've been fighting back. At the moment, we're just sort of trying to stay ahead of, keep pace up and stay on that lead lap.
Yeah, well, we've noticed the last few events, especially for you guys, the cars have been we're only getting stronger as the racing's gone on, which is really good to see. And was there much issue? We noticed there was a bit of contact between yourselves and the Pro Force guys a few laps back. Was there any major issues to the car after that contact?
Yeah, it bent the steering on us, so we had to burn a fast repair on it. We copped a couple of hits from Sean going into the bus stop. That last one we had HPD up on the inside. Turbulent air threw everyone off, and unfortunate, but that's racing.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And how have you guys found the adjustment? Obviously, we had the issues this morning, a few laps in, with everyone having to make a quick change to the server. Did you find the car was any different once you guys were able to get back out on track, or everything sort of continued on as it was previous to that?
We actually found the change from old server to the current one a bit better for us for setup. I'm just watching from overhead, and that was a bit hairy, but going to a bit of a cooler track sort of helped the setup, helped us stabilise the car a little bit. So, we pitted just before the realisation of the mix-up. So we went from sort of 4th, I think, to starting back in 8th once we came across the new server. But I think that was a bit of a blessing in disguise, because after the tangle that there was on the I think on lap 3 or 4, that pulled a couple of the guys up the front out. If we were where we thought we should have been, we'd have been caught right in the middle of that.
Oh, well, look, that's it's not good to hear that there were issues at the beginning, but obviously, getting the second chance with the new server was like I say, a blessing in disguise. We're still trying to work out with the restart and the new server. Did all the incident points that were there, they all get wiped as well as the quick repairs that you guys had at the time?
Yeah, so from the understanding that all the incidents that were occurred in the first part were scrubbed. So we came into this session here with a new 93 incident limit. We didn't burn a fast repair in the first session, so we came into this one with 2. But I'd imagine that it would have been the same thing with that too, because there's no real way to give certain teams 1 fast repair and other teams 2, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, if you had been in the boat with 1 obviously being done, you've kind of got that lucky hand and got around it. As we see, one of the HPDs just quickly getting past your car there too. So coming up towards the end of the race, are we likely to see you in the car for another stint, or will Joel be bringing it home towards the end there, mate?
I'm just the voice of these guys. These 2 fellas have been driving today, and Josh in the first session. They're all infinitely quicker than I am, so I just run my mouth at them. We don't know what we're going to do yet. We'll probably plug Eric back into the car. There's still a fair bit of time left. Still a bit of time to be made up, because even with in the last stint where we had Eric in the car and he was sort of trying to hold on to that lead lap, he was actually gapping the GTI guys a little bit. So we might plug him back in, try and find a little bit more speed. Joel's pretty steady, but yeah, we're just sort of, strategy went out the window hours ago for us. We've just been winging it.
Well, look, winging it's not always the worst outcome of the race, but coming up towards the end, I'm not sure whether you're right up with the strategies and calls and how you're going to go. And obviously, since we're not broadcasting live and at the moment, can you give us any tips or tricks that you guys likely to try a set of tyres double stinted for the last race, or are you likely just to put a new fresh set of boots on the last stop there?
That's right, we're not live, so we can talk strategy a little bit better. I completely forgot about that. We double stinted, kind of nearly triple stinted the last set of tyres. We came out with a fresh set of boots on, and then we had a safety car. So about 10 laps into the stint, so we pulled in, we just took some juice, came back out, and then we ran those tyres again. So in theory it was 3 stints, but realistically the amount of laps that they covered, it was only 2. By the end of that second stint, they do get a bit shonky. So we may put a fresh set of boots on after this one, and then double them to the end. But at this point, we're sort of, I think Ross has just gotten past us now. Trent's just gone past us now. So we're sort of holding off, trying to hold those guys off in the hope of a safety car, so we get the wave around and just tack onto the end of the line. But that looks like it's gone out the window for us now.
Yeah, we just saw that car, the Fusion car going past you guys there. But I guess leading in towards the end, how are you guys looking for incidents? Are you likely to get up towards that incident limit, or have you got still a fair bit there left in reserve?
We've shot up a fair bit recently. I think we copped probably about 12, maybe 16 incidents just from getting rear-ended by Sean in the GTI car. It happens. So we are sort of up at about the 7 mark at the moment. So we do have to be a little bit more careful. We didn't burn a lot early, but recently, we sort of copped a couple of grazes and a couple of over-ambitious HPDs have brushed us and that sort of thing. I think we got a net code 4X earlier as well. It's unfortunate, but we know what happens. So yeah, we're going to have to sort of tiptoe a little bit, I think, towards the end, because with an hour 46 remaining and only 22 incidents for DQ, it's going to get close.
Yeah, and it's a hard one too with the way iRacing seems to tack on those 4Xs, especially with netcode. I don't know whether that's something they can look at on their side and possibly repair or correct, but that's an extra shot that you don't really need, especially to be gifted with a 4X.
Yeah, exactly right, and especially with this track, which is notorious for off tracks. Like the track limits on this one, they're ruthless. You think one lap you'll come through, you'll hit a mark, you'll be fine. Next lap you come through, you'll hit the same mark, but maybe a couple mil off, and boom, there's an incident for you.
Yeah, that's right. And I might pass you over to Bernie. I'm sure he's got a couple of questions. Bernie, do you want to take it away, mate?
I don't actually have any questions. I'm just sitting here eating chocolate, which is really good. But have we got any sponsors you'd like to give a call out to, DJ?
No, still no sponsors. We're still the little engine that could, and always hoping and dreaming. But I'll give a couple of shout outs, to a couple of guys, Eric, Josh, Joel, those guys that actually do the racing. I just yell at them and try and keep them calm, which sometimes feels like herding kittens. But they go all right. You guys over here, even though we're not live at the moment, this is still happening. So it's phenomenal. We're all going to have something to go back and watch and listen to, and sort of see who's taking slide jabs at who when no one can respond.
Yeah, it's going to be, hopefully everyone will enjoy that, but it's going to be interesting. We've got a little campaign going here, myself and Daniel, and that is trying to get all the secrets out of you guys as you come up for interviews. And it seems to be working so far because we're not live, so there's nothing to lose in letting us know.
I like it though. No, it's good. It'll actually be really good to hear if anyone else gives up a bit of insight that everyone else can use. But it's been pretty good racing out there today. There was that mishap with the servers, but you live, you learn. Thanks have to go out to Alan for running the series still. Without this series, what would we be doing on a Sunday afternoon rather than sitting here virtually going around one of the best tracks in the world?
I'd probably be sleeping, but that's my other hobby.
I thought you'd be out on the ovals racing some dirt there, Bernie.
No, mate. No, I did some hot laps in that, and like I always do, overcommit and under-deliver. That's my motto.
Very good work.
All right, well, DJ, we'll let you get back to it. Go back to herding those kittens, and hopefully you can get that car back on the lead lap.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Thanks again for this. It'll be great to sit down and watch the broadcast a little bit later.
Yeah, no worries, mate. See ya. Yeah, Daniel, if anyone out there wants to see how I overcommit and under-deliver, you can now, because RRTV is on Twitch. So you can go to twitch.tv/RRTV live, and it's a bit of a different channel to this. YouTube is always going to be our broadcast channel. The Twitch side is more jumping in the car with me and seeing what a fool I can make of myself, or if I feel like it may not even be racing. You might just watch me play a game of Banished or something. If you're into that sort of thing, by all means check us out.
Well, I think that's quite a good initiative now to have something other than obviously just the main racing broadcast side of it. So I'm sure you'll end up with a sit back and watch you eat your chocolate and not ask anyone if they'd like any.
Yeah, well, the first broadcast I did, not many people watched it, but the first one I did was all about me scratching my head on trying to work out how the hell to set up a skip barber, because I'll be the first to say I don't have a clue how to do that, and it's all just, as you know, with skip barber, Daniel, what have you got? You got anti-roll bar and tyre pressures. That's about it, I think.
I personally haven't driven them much in the last 3 or 4 years, but I assume from what I remember, which is very vague. They're exactly the same way to set up as what the Porsche is.
Yeah, scratching my head and hoping for the best. I think that's how I set the Porsche up.
Maybe that's what we need to tell some people is you don't have to be a rocket scientist to set up the Porsche like you do with a HPD. So get on board, get a Porsche into this series and drive it, because it's the easiest car to get around, and it would give us great racing to have a third class with 7 or 8, even 10 more cars out on the field. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, and the catchphrase could be, if you can drive a Skippy, you can drive a Porsche.
Absolutely. They're both rear-engine cars, so not too much different there. The only thing is you don't get your hairpiece blowing in the wind. You can keep it tucked inside the lid and have a bit of fun.
Hairpiece. Now I'm picturing Donald Trump jumping in a Skip Barber. That's scary.
Would he fit in a Skip Barber? That's a bad joke, but yes, let's not go there anymore.
I'm sure if he had his way, he would convince the Skip Barber that he could fit.
Yeah, probably, or it'd be about 3 foot wider than it needs to be, and no one would get past him.
Yeah, that'll work as well. It's getting back to the racing. They're getting very spread out here. Fusion Sim Racing's leading, but the gap last time by to Dynamic Sim Racing was over 26 seconds. So it'll be interesting to see what it is now. And then, what is it? It was 15 seconds back to third and another 5 seconds back to fourth. So Class A is definitely all over the track at this stage.
It is, and he's doing a great job to extend that lead. And like we touched on before, the majority of that time came obviously from the double stinting of the tyres. So he's not losing anything, and it just goes to prove they've got a good construction with this new tyre model, and if you get the car set where you need it, two stints is quite doable at a really good pace as well.
Yeah, I reckon they've had this plan. When you it's a bit like the cycling. When you get close to the end, someone has to go, and I have a feeling that was Fusion Sim Racing getting out in front of the peloton and making that gap while they can, and hoping to hold that till the end of the race. Yeah,
definitely. And the guys they've got in the car now, and whether we see another change in driving are two very solid drivers, good lap times, good consistency. They know how to cut through the traffic. So failing any major mishaps or hardware failures, we give the good old touch on the wood there. I think it's going to be a very close race, especially if there's one more safety car to finish it out with.
Yeah, and I thought we almost had one there. We've got Mark Rayner behind the Porsche Swift car, and they came together, coming down through the hairpin, and he backed out of it, but both cars got a little bit squirrely there for a moment.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a hard spot with... just seeing that replay, yeah. So like the GT3, once they're committed to that corner, unless you are either able to get on the brakes very lightly and open that steering wheel, you're essentially committed to that line. So it was good to see Mark. Yes, there was a bit of touch and that, but didn't spin the car, didn't use it as a bump and run to get past. So race stewards will probably look at that, give it a racing incident, and it'll be continue on, game on as it is now.
Yeah, pretty much, and we're on board with him, and you could hear him. There was a tap, but he pretty much backed straight out of it. And I reckon whenever you run into a car like that, if you pull out of it, race control knows it's a mistake, it's a racing incident, and they'll generally look on it quite favourably, especially if the car in front didn't spin, where the potential was they could have ended up in the wall or something worse.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just trying to figure out what's actually happened to Heath. He's got the Fusion Sim car in pit lane at the moment, so I'm not sure whether he's had an incident or they possibly have even short-filled this car to gain the track position. So they might be starting work the race in reverse for this last hour and a half, and maybe they know something a bit more than we know.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at a replay. He did have an off-track, and which I suspect was just him running wide. As you know, you can get him pretty easily coming out of Coupe Paul Ferrer whatever you call it. I think he picked up an off track there.
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce some of these names. I've got no chance in hell. But those boys are running well, and if they are running a reverse strategy, they may be able just to put a full set of fuel and tyres into this now, and then do that final short stint if they have to come back in again. So they may be positioning themselves exceptionally well for the end of this race now.
Oh, definitely, and it's all that looking for the last quarter of the race, which is effectively when they started that strategy with 2 hours to go, or last fifth of the race anyway. But it looks like we've got another interview. That's Scott Stevens. It's my turn to see if I can get any information out of him.
No worries, and I'll kick back and wish I had some chocolate here. I'll
just go and make a coffee, grab a beer and eat some chocolate. Works well.
Yeah, definitely.
Hi Scott, welcome to RRTV's Combox. We've got your car on the screen at the moment. Doing a great job there, running in second position. And you've got Trent Thomas in the car at the moment.
G'day Bernie, g'day Daniel. Yes, Trent's in the car, doing a great job, trying to keep it nice and clean and consistent through to the end of the race. So, yeah, travelling not too bad at the moment.
Yeah, just having a look at the gap. You're about 5 seconds down, I think, from the Proforce Racing GTI entry. Ross Rizzo's in that car. But you're pretty much lapping the same lap, so you feel like you've got a chance of taking this win tonight?
No, I think we're pretty much settled in for second place. The track's actually gone away from our car with the setup, so we're struggling a little bit with corner turn, which is kind of affecting us. So yeah, just settling in and yeah, really aiming, I guess, for second position at the moment. Yeah, some things that have gone other teams' ways that we really feel shouldn't have, and it has, but trying to be as diplomatic as possible here. And yeah, so a few pretty interesting things have happened out on track that cars have got away with and really probably shouldn't, where others have been penalised for exactly the same thing, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. And because we're not live here, Scott, we ask for a world exclusive, top secret from every single team. They've all complied up until now,
right? And
they've given us something, some nugget of wealth of information.
Yep.
Are you willing to partake in this?
The information's regarding the team, is it, or?
Yeah, team strategy.
Strategy stuff.
Yeah, because no one's going to see it because we're not live. So.
Oh, this is true, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what we're telling everyone, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's right, it's true. Yeah, we'll give you something."
Okay, well, ours. I will let you in on a secret then. Yep, we've actually fitted and painted our cars with the consistency paint that you can buy, and this allows us to pretty much be very consistent across all three drivers within our car and throughout all of our teams with lap times. So I think pretty much on an average our lap times differ between 200ths and 500ths of a second, so very consistent across the board. So that's because of our consistency paint that we've got on our cars.
Yeah, and I guess if people want consistency paint for their cars, they can go and check out, what is it, Dripping Paint Graphics or Graphics Paint?
Yeah, mate, that's the one. That's who does our paints there. So yeah, they've got a special formula that they use, and seems to work relatively well.
And I've heard if you put that paint on the tyres, it actually helps with consistency as far as tyre grip goes.
No, that fallacy is not true. Because our tyres are dropping off more than what they probably should be at the moment, so that's not helping us. But the paint definitely does. It's basically the way that paint reacts with how the car gets through the air. So, yeah.
Fantastic. It sounds like a Mythbusters episode to me, but I'm glad we reached the end of this lunacy.
Well, I hope ours has been as good as some other people's, that's for sure.
Other people have actually told us stuff that's actually believable. But,
right. That's believable, isn't it?
Yeah. It's up there with pack and sand and God knows what else. But,
that's right.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's why Red Bull Racing Formula 1 have got their matte finish on their cars, because it's actually better aero-wise through as the car's driving. So I figured, well, if Red Bull can do it, bloody Fusion Sim Racing, mate, we can do it too.
Yeah, well, if you look really closely at the Red Bull cars, they've actually, all that paint job's all little balls. And when the air goes over it, they all spin, which causes more downforce and plants the car. That's why they do it, I think.
Exactly. Ours is just consistency based, is all.
Fair enough. Well, it's probably a good starting point, being consistent. But yeah, so as far as the race goes, an hour 30 in, do you guys reckon you're going to make it on one more pit stop?
I think that's the aim. If a safety car falls, definitely will help. But I think it might be a stop and maybe a splash and dash to the end. So yeah, we're just we're hanging out on that at the moment. Obviously, Trent will just run this as to empty as possible on this stint. If a safety car doesn't come out, and then we'll just see what we've got left in the tanks after that.
Yeah, because we were looking at the last pit stop, and it was right on around about the 2 hour mark the GT3s were pitting at, and we looked at it and thought, well, to get to the end from there, you're going to have to pretty much either fuel save or run it till the very end of the tank, fill it up, and then run it again to the very end to make it, and even then it'd be a very empty tank.
Yeah, and you run the risk, Bernie, if a safety car comes out when you're trying to do that running to end, and if you pit under safety car when it's closed, you're going to get that pit lane drive-through with the 1 lap hold. So there's risk versus reward with that as well. Do you run to your standard pit regime in terms of how many laps left of fuel you've got in the tank, and hope that there might be a safety car for others who kind of stay out, or do you run the gauntlet and hope that the safety car doesn't come out and you can make it to pretty much leaving a drop left in your tank, so to speak?
Yeah, well that's it, isn't it? And we all know if you get caught out under a safety car and you're running out of fuel and you have to do that drive-through, especially at Spa, you're at the world's longest pit lane. Probably is the world's longest pit lane.
Yeah, I think it's something like a minute, something just to trundle the lane without actually taking any service. So it's quite long. To be having to travel down the lane for no necessary reason, really.
Yeah, exactly right. I heard, this is my wealth of wisdom since you've shared one, I've heard that driving down pit lane at Spa is the equivalent of doing 1 lap of Bathurst.
I think it depends on what car you're in at Bathurst, Bertie, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. Well, it's 1 lap of Bathurst for me, anyway.
For GT3, if you take a full service and your pit lane time, GT3 you're looking at about 2 minutes 5 to 2 minutes 10. So a GT3 lap time around Bathurst is roughly around 2 minutes 3 to 2 minute kind of 5, 6, just depending on, I guess, your skill level. So yeah, it's in GT3 land, it's like doing a lap around Bathurst. Yeah.
There you go.
Not as daunting, that's for sure.
I don't know. I've seen some cars come unstuck on that hairpin at Spa.
Yeah, they really need to fix that, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Hit that at speed and you're going to grenade yourself into the stratosphere.
Yeah. That's it. I think it's got a little concrete clip on it at the inside wall, and you end up on your roof if you hit that, and you're blocking all the rest of the traffic as well. So nobody wants to be having to go through that.
Yeah, exactly. But before we let you go, of course, you better give a shout out to all your sponsors for this car, and we'll see what opportunities you guys can make in the next hour and 26 minutes.
Yeah, well, just first of all, just a shout out to our two other teams. So the Fusion Sim Racing 145, who's been pretty much the top 1-2 HPD teams at the moment, or throughout the race really, doing a fantastic effort, staying out of trouble. Doing really, really well. And our sister GT3 team in the 348 car, not got the outright pace, but sitting I think in, looks like 6th or 7th in class. So again, they're doing a really, really solid job. They're actually missing a driver this weekend, so had some technical issues with Bobby Jovanovich's computer, and he couldn't get the thing to boot up. So Rob and Eddie have had to do the whole race by themselves, unfortunately. But yeah, to our sponsors, Dynamic Sim Racing for some really top high-end racing products. You can check out them on Facebook, and they have a website link there as well. And they're actually, one of their teams is leading the way at the moment in HPD, so they're doing a solid effort. Eclipse Signage, they're new to us this year, have come on board. So if you need any printing, stickers, banners, all that type of stuff, they're the people to go to, and they've been a great help coming on board with us as well. Sensational looking paint work and the consistency paint that they've got, and big thanks out to you guys at RRTV for putting on the broadcast and giving up your weekend time that you do. So great effort for you guys as well.
Fantastic. And do you think you can take that consistency paint, turn it into a clothing line? Because I'd really like to wear that when I go out dating.
Consistency dating? Clothing? Is
yeah,
that what we're after?
Consistency dating clothing.
Yeah.
So you can you can pack and send, so to speak.
Who knows, Bernie? Who knows?
It's a new line you could work on. It could be a winner. You just never know.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, I just want to give a shout out too to the Selby guys. They've had a bit of a tough round this weekend, but sponsoring the endurance championship and doing a great job. Unfortunately, they got taken out in a couple of incidents, but was looking like a really, really good battle was going to brew between them, the Swift guys, and I dare say Proforce would have got back up there anyway, and they're in the lead at the moment. But yeah, so slight commiserations to Selby on that one, but thanks for coming on board and sponsoring the event. Definitely makes it a lot easier for Alan and his admin team, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Selby's a really good backer of iRacing. A lot of the Australian events, they do put money in and support it. The other good thing was to see Nathan in the car 7 weeks ago. He broke his leg pretty badly, and it was his first drive back in the car. And not sure how he pulled up, but it was great to see him back out on track.
I did see that, and to be honest, I was probably a little surprised to see him out on the track so early. But well done to Nathan, and getting back out and getting that leg repaired, and hopefully it wasn't too much of a hindrance with your driving. It certainly hasn't slowed his pace down, that's for sure. So yeah, good to see that another fellow driver's back out on the mend and on track.
Yeah, Nathan was in the combox with us this morning. It was me and him, and he did a fantastic job commentating. So it was a pleasure having him on board as well for that. So he's definitely put in the hours today. Yeah,
he did some pretty solid stints. Him and Paul Mansell, I think I've seen in the car most of the time. I think Sean O'Brien has done some stints as well. I'm not sure if they're back out on track or not. It looks like they've been sitting in pit lane for about 2 hours, so they might have called it a night or a day. But even Sean was in, I believe, a bit of a rollover in the the new off-road buggy series that they've got in Australia, and I think that was last weekend or the weekend before. So yeah, nothing stopping those guys after having some damaged limbs and stuff getting back behind the wheel, which is good to see.
Yeah, I think he's in the Polaris class, isn't he?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so and he's got Selby, bannering and signage and everything on that on the buggy. So the Polaris. So good to see them making the step from sim racing to real world, sponsorship and racing as well. It's good to see.
Yeah, it's fantastic, that's for sure. Great bunch of guys. But anyway, Scott, we better let you go because I'm sure the phone's going to start ringing for that consistent paint scheme that you've been plugging.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've got my number on there, but yeah, bit of fun and games there, I guess. But I will have to head off soon. Looks like we're going to have to start sorting out strategy and what the game plan is from here on out. So thanks Bernie and Daniel for having us, and look forward to watching the broadcast probably later tonight, to be honest.
Yeah, well, once we finish here 7:30, I'll start uploading straight away. It's probably going to take a couple of hours, I guess, to get it uploaded for about a 4-hour broadcast.
Yep, we've always got first part to watch, don't we?
Oh yeah, you got that to watch.
Yeah, got to get through a bit.
Yeah, no worries. All right, mate. Best of luck.
And to you too. Thanks, Bernie.
Well, Daniel, I don't know if that quite works. That wasn't the exclusive that we were looking for, was it?
No, I think we need to make sure we send to all the guys that when they come in, they get the verbal agreement form, and they fill that out before we do it.
Yeah, but Mr. Stevens, he always has to try to twist or take an advantage, and consistent paint, that's a new one.
It is. It actually looks like, I think, from looking at their cars from Phillip Island and now, I think they've also had a bit of a touch-up on the paintwork as well. So, consistency paint, why not?
Yeah, exactly. But it might be time to get a bit of an update on the two classes still running here, folks. So your top 10 in Class A at the moment, Dynamic Sim Racing 3 is leading. Fusion Sim Racing is in second. Third, Redback Racing Team White, and they are now one lap down, followed by Redback Racing Team Black. Dynamic Sim Racing sitting in fifth at the moment. That's the number 2 car, and Dynamic Sim Racing 4 is in sixth. Seventh, Misfit Motorsport 2 laps down, followed by LMTI in 8th, also 2 laps down. Dynamic Sim Racing 1 is sitting in 9th, and Team VPR rounds out your top 10, and they are 3 laps down.
Yeah, when we look into the GT class, so Pro Force Racing is still leading that one currently, and they've also got Fusion Sim Racing, the 347 car, on the same lap, and they're battling that one out at the moment. In third, we've got the Lone Star Sim Racing car, 1 lap down. He's also followed up with the ARM Racing car. Swift Racing are in fifth, can't read. We also got Try Hards Racing, they're 2 laps back off the leaders and looking to try and bridge that gap to ARM Racing and Swift. And rounding it out is the Fusion car, 348 there. 3 laps, off the lead of that class as well.
Yeah, and I was just eating my chocolate there, and then looks like Selby's classified in 10th at the moment, even though they've retired that car.
Yeah, that's a shame, although I did see, it looks like their driver Sean has actually come back in, so if they were in pits and didn't get that fast repair, they might have had enough time to go off, get a feed, come back, and they might still be able to get out of here for the last little bit if they've got time.
Yeah, we'll have to see. They're actually retired it again at the moment, from what I can tell.
Okay, well that's a shame for them, but like we were saying earlier, and yourself and Scotty were saying, they've done an awesome effort, and I think we'll see them nice and strong for the next round. It also looks as if our leader, Mark Rayner, he's in pits and has actually just lost the lead back to the Fusion car again. So he's dropped from first to second, but possibly a short stop in the last 20 minutes, I'd say, for that car.
Yeah, the HPDs are all starting to position themselves now as far as pit strategy goes, aren't they? Like 1 minute 16, that car was in there 49 seconds, so it's done a full stop. But they're going to fall, 20 minutes shy of the end, I think, possibly 25 minutes. So they'll have to do another shorter stop anyway, as you said.
Yeah, but I think we're also going to find that is going to be the same for our top four in that class. So obviously Mark's got the freshest tyres and fattest fuel tank on board at the moment, but even our leaders have been out. The Fusion car has been out for just on 10 laps now, and surprisingly Mark's stop was actually near on 10 to 12 seconds quicker, so they may have possibly taken a touch less fuel, because the total stop time that we saw for those two cars was a minute for the Fusion guys and just short of 50 seconds for Dynamic Sim Racing. So it's falling in nicely, like you're saying, for the last of the race, and I'm just getting ready for the enjoyment.
Yeah, well, it always comes together, doesn't it, in the last hour, and it gets very exciting, and it's going to be interesting with the 145, because we don't know if they double stinted the tyres or short filled it, but they did do a very long stop, which pretty much nullified it, didn't it? 61 seconds compared to 49. They only gained, about 20 seconds in the previous stop.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they may have lost about 10 seconds, I think, between those two stops there in running position. So they've still got a comfortable lead at 17 and a half seconds at the moment. And if they do have to come in again, do they take the tyres and obviously going to have to take a little more fuel than what Dynamic Sim Racing are doing. So going to be very entertaining this last hour and a quarter of this race to see what plays out and unfolds.
It certainly will be, and we're coming up to the last hour in 14 minutes. Also got Phil Hobbs in the Redback Racing team. I think that's the white car. You can tell by their tyres generally, the wheels, so that's the Redback Racing team white. 27 seconds down from the lead, so they are in play, especially if a safety car comes out. And then we've got Warren Pickering in the 102, and he is in Redback Racing Team Black in fourth.
Yeah, and they're quite close on track, and like we're saying, if we get a safety car now, we're going to have the top six all bunched up back together again, obviously, with a few GT cars in between them, but that's going to make for very entertaining racing to finish out this race, and it would be great to see. That would put us 3 dynamic cars in there. We've got the 2 Redback cars and obviously the Fusion Sports guys. So it's bring on the end of the race. I don't want more to say other than that. Yeah,
definitely, and it's going to be exciting, that's for sure. And we're just having a look at the 166. That's Team VPR, and Geordie Pugh is driving that at the moment, and they're sponsored by M-Spec. We haven't seen much of them at all today, but sitting in 10th position, having a good solid run.
Absolutely. I think they were possibly involved in one of the earlier incidents just prior to us coming back from the break, but the lap times that they've had on board here, especially with Geordie, are quite consistent. There's we're sort of within about a second spread over the last 20 laps or so that he's done, so quite consistent driving. I'm not exactly sure what M-Spec themselves do, but they've been a primary sponsor of this car for a couple of seasons now, so it's good to see them still renewing sponsorship and giving back to the sport and helping these guys move ahead.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm going to go to Mr. Google and find out if we can find out what M-Spec's all about.
Yeah, I almost thought it was. Yeah, I don't know. I saw the Honda badge and I'm thinking, well, is it some spin-off of that? But I'm not entirely sure. But like we say, they've carried that sponsor for 2 or 3 seasons now, and they've been very loyal. And VPR obviously puts up a great fight week in, week out, and they're always in there fighting for a decent result coming into the race and end of the championship season as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've found, I don't know if this is them or not, but it's M-Spec. But yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to ask them if we see them, if it's an imaginary sponsor or a real business, and if it is, they can tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely. It would be quite interesting to know as to what that actually relates to, because something they might be able to put a little more branding on the car, or it could be one of their motorsport spec tiers, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, not sure. There is an M-Spec GTR, which is a car, but I doubt that is it. But anyway, we digress.
Car, eh?
Yeah, I reckon. But yeah, Class B at the moment. Ross Rizzo, of course, is still leading that. Trent Thomas not too far behind him now. They're starting to close that gap as well. And these two are on the same lap and fighting for position. So Fusion Sim Racing in both classes once again are showing their strength. They're running first in Class A and second in Class B.
It's a great result for both of them, and I think now that they're in touch with Ross and the Pro Force guys, again, that's a great developing battle, and I think that was the same battle, if I'm correct, that we saw at Phillip Island between those two as well. So very consistent cars, they know how to get the most out of them, so yeah, great solid driving between the two, and the lap times, just looking at it, looked like Trent was actually a touch quicker the last lap around, so he might be able to start making some good inroads there, and again, we're going to have a really good fun battle.
Oh, definitely. We just saw the 101 go past the 101 go past the 347, and they're coming under a bit of attack here by trying to get the number blue and white HPD.
Number 199, that's Daniel Atchison behind the wheel of the Misfits car there.
So, and they've made that move. I don't think it was for position, because I think the 101 is another lap down from these guys.
Yeah, it is. It's a couple of laps back. I believe he's still on the same... where are we here? Yeah, he is definitely a couple of laps behind that. So Misfits are actually fighting with Dynamic Sim Sports 2, which was... Well, is the car currently driven by Nino, but I believe that was... Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. We were actually watching that car before. They were going quite well. That was Philip Morton behind the wheel of that car earlier on.
Yeah. So, yeah, that car's been going well as well. So, it's funny also. Well, it's not funny, but it's like as this race goes on, the yellow flags tend to dwindle, and it must be because the guys get into a groove, the cars all get spread out, and they make less mistakes.
Yeah, definitely, and you may find too that some of these guys unwittingly may have left that quick repair on, so if they have had any curb damage or a bit of rubbing, it may have worn those out as well, so possibly forcing them into a little safer strategy towards the end of this race, just to sort of avoid obviously not finishing and ruining that for the team. But we all like the racing where it's nice and open, and it gives the field, yes, a chance to spread out, but you get those good little battles that start forming up between everyone as well, so not as exciting and close packed, but hopefully we don't see any we want to see the racing, but we don't want any big issues for that last hour and a bit before the end of the race.
Yeah, that's right, and I think race control will come out and say, I think it's the last, half an hour or something, they don't have any safety cars come out so that the guys can race to the end unhindered.
Yeah, we've seen that in the last few seasons, but now where they're stopping that, so I think that's a good initiative by then. It frees up the racing and makes it a bit more fun, but I guess there'd be nothing worse than having a safety car come out 5 minutes from the end and you have a finish under safety car condition. That would be a little bit disappointing to everyone out there.
Oh, definitely. We don't want one of those NASCAR finishes under the waved yellow flag, or whatever they do over there with their their racing, although what they normally do is pull out a yellow, close the field up, and then they do the last lap dash, which is always fairly exciting.
Yeah, it is, and I think they went that way, like you say, because it made for an utterly boring finish to a potentially great race. So I don't think we have the facility in iRacing as such yet to extend those. So if it went yellow right at the end, it would be a time certain finish, and we wouldn't see any more from there. So if iRacing gives us that flexibility, you never know, it might happen.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if they bring it into the NASCAR side of things at some point. At the moment, they seem very focused, and rightly so, on getting the dirt established, which we can see that happening. It'll be interesting to see where they go after that.
Oh, absolutely, and I think from the few bits of time that I've spent with dirt, it's actually quite impressive how quick, when you're handing around in one of the sprint cars, to see how quick the track can go from perfectly groomed, ready to go, and do 20 hard laps, and you've got a pretty dry line in the middle. So if they can implement getting those sort of characteristics of the track change into the road side and obviously the ovals, I think the racing level will go up more, because everyone's going to have to think so much more in advance as to what's happening.
Yeah, that's right, and we can see the dirt translating a bit into the road already, just by looking at where cars have run off and where the dirt's coming across the track. And it's interesting, generally when the V8 supercars are running, you'll see a lot more dirt on the circuit, because of course they use a lot more of the circuit.
Yeah, and with the V8, I mean, you can drive it a bit on the dirt. We've seen that in real world stuff with the likes of Van Gisbergen at Eastern Creek, and even here, I mean, you can get a wheel on the grass and keep hold of it and get in through the next corner, but having all that dirt and rubbish and junk that gets brought up here, be it the gravel and dirt off the sides or even the tyre rubber, is a really nice touch now that they got, and it can only get better if we get weather conditions where the likes of that gets washed off. If we get rain and that, it would spruce up everything about this simulator to the next level.
Yeah, it definitely would, and of course if they bring in rain and all that, which is what road racers all want, we want it, but they're going to have a way of switching it off for the NASCAR boys, because generally with NASCAR, if it starts raining, they park all the cars and wait for it to clear up again. Yeah,
definitely. I think though, in saying that, if they can bring it in, which I can't see being an issue in setting the weather for both series, in that you'd want to have a way to be able to modify your cars or work on the cars like you can in real life on the track. So if it comes down raining, you're not tied into that dry setup. You've got the option to soften the car or do more than just put a bit of a wet weather tyre on it.
Yeah, that's right. They'd need a way that you can effectively get the car serviced, or more than serviced, actually, the equivalent of pushing it behind the wall and tuning it again.
Yep, definitely. But that'll come, and we'll love it when it does. I'd even love to see animated pit stops. So if you're in a block pan or a GT car and you see that guy come around with your tyres in front of each stop and do that, I don't know how far we're away from seeing something like that, but that would be cool. Just as a visual standpoint, would be phenomenal.
Well, I think they're working towards it. They've slowly got the animation coming in of the pit crew, so I think they're looking at it. And the thing I'm going to be interested in about, and sorry about this folks, we're just talking about this while there's a lack of action on the track, so to speak. What I'm interested to see is how they handle, now that they've got a third style of racing out there, how they handle moving forward all the different race rules they've got to adhere to. I guess speedway and oval racing's probably fairly close, but it'd be interesting to see if they split the road racing rules out so that all these different series they're supporting now can have proper ruling instead of us under the NASCAR rules.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the other issue too with the safety car now is before road was as big as it was, were and are still now working off the old NASCAR yellow flag system. So you can't pass a car going into your pit lane. You can't really do a lot of things. So if they can free that up and give us a different caution system, and possibly even more to throw out different flags or mechanical issues and things like that, that would bring it another step closer to that realism that we're all looking for.
Yeah, exactly right, and I think that would have to be on the card at some point, especially if they've got the official Blanc pane following them. We know they changed the pit stops just for the GT3 cars to replicate that, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're also trying to find a way to implement the same rules in those sort of series.
Oh, definitely, and I think as we get these bigger names and series groups that are coming in, that'll be more on the forefront of things that are going to start taking effect and being updated, hopefully sooner rather than later as well.
Yeah, that's right, because that's one thing a lot of the road racers have been screaming for quite a bit of time, is getting that sorted out.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Phillip Island is probably the worst example, where you've got a pit lane that comes in so much closer and sooner than what the racing line does, or even Bathurst, for instance, where it's easy just to sneak a touch past that car in front of you and you're black flagged for passing a car where you can't see where they're likely to be or have any idea of how close or behind you are of that one that's out on the track there.
Yeah, exactly right, and I tell you what, it's getting interesting up front here, folks. We've got the top 5 are still on the lead lap, and let's have a look at where we are on the lap counter. We're down to 1 hour of racing, so the cars that you need to keep an eye on out there, Fusion Sim Racing, they're leading by 19 seconds back to Dynamic Sim Racing 3. And there's contact. Well, they've spun them around. What about the 340? 340's gone around as well.
He has, and I think the Dynamic Sim Sports car actually did manage to keep that off the wall. But being that there's a spin of another car, yeah, he kind of got pinched going in really low into that corner there. So they may end up with a penalty out of this. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that and see what comes of that.
Yeah, because it looks like he's tagged him on the rear quarter panel. He did keep it off the wall, but because he's spun that 340, it could have implications, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully it's not a bad thing, but it looks like, yeah, he's just had that tyre a little too close up, and by the time the guy in the arm car would have got the word that there's one so close to you, he's committed. He has nowhere to go other than open it up and go straight into a wall. So, yeah, we're going to have to leave that in the hands of the race stewards and see what happens from that one.
Yeah, and there was also a close call for the 385. Ross Rizzo was driving the Proforce car. He actually came around and went to the outside of the 340. So he was lucky the 340 was offline. Otherwise, Class B leader could have been in trouble as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, we want to see a good fight from those guys in that GT class as well, and that's going to be really tight, exciting racing at the end there as well. So, we'll just watch to what the race administrators have to say for that. Obviously, once we get word of what's happening, we'll inform the viewers and let them know what's happening as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, looking at Class A, the cars to keep an eye on. As I was saying, the 145 is leading, 25 seconds back to Dynamic Sim Racing 3, but a little bit of a question mark over whether they will get a penalty or not. They have 9 seconds up on Redback Racing Team White. Phil Hobbs is in that car, and they're in with a shot as well. Then 4 seconds down the track is their sister car, the Redback Racing Team Black, also in with a shot of podium today. And then the final car with the chance of a top 3 finish would be the Dynamic Sim Racing 4 team. They are in 5th place, 73 seconds down, so these guys are going to probably need to either have a really interesting pit stop or a safety car at this point in time.
Yeah, and they've been fighting back too from that issue they had coming through Blanchamp on there, where they caught another car and hit the wall. So to still be on the lead lap, they're doing exceptionally well considering all that damage and issue that they had. What was it, about an hour ago now? So yeah, if we get a safety car, we'll look for these guys to make their way up towards the front end there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then the key players for Class B, the GT3s, we've got Ross Rizzo. He's actually in the pits taking his final service now. So we've got him in contention for the win. Well, of course he was leading. Trent Thomas, the 347, just coming through now to take the lead, and they're on the same lap. So these guys are very close between each of the teams fighting. But then we go back to looking at Darren Bull in Lone Wolf Racing. He's competing against the 393 Swift Racing boys, which are also in the pits taking their final stop. And then we've got Justin Alderton in the 340, the ARM racing car we saw just spin. They are in a battle with the 322, which is Tryhards Racing 1. So yeah, 6 cars in there still battling it out to see what that top 5 is going to look like at the end.
Yeah, and just seeing the Proforce guys, they've left Ross Rizzo in the car for the last stint there. So it was a minute time or stop that they were in their box for. So that should be fuel tyres. They're pretty well set to go to the end now. We're going to have to keep an eye on the Fusion Sim Racing car though. They stopped, what have we got, 2-3 laps earlier. They were a 20-second delta quicker stop. So either they've been able to take less fuel or they've whacked as much fuel in and no tyres. Not entirely sure there, but coming towards the end of that race with 3 laps in it, they're either going to have to save remarkably well or go for hell for leather and make that stop right at the end.
Yes, definitely going to be interesting to see how that shapes out. And we've also got Bailey Hall joining us up here in the Combox. So welcome Bailey for the last hour of this race, 54 minutes. So I might rest my voice for a bit and let you guys go at it. What do you reckon?
Thanks Bernie for letting me back up into the Combox. Yeah, we'll do our best for the last however long. I've got to sneak awake for a little bit later on, but I'm here for a little bit.
No worries. Well, while you're here, we'll make use of your resourcing. So I'll let you and Daniel call the action, and then when you need to pop out, I'll jump back in the Combox.
Yeah, no worries, Benny.
Looks like we've got most of the racing at the moment sort of settled down after that spin with Mark, which there hasn't been any update yet from race control on. That spin actually cost them 10 seconds, so that brought them right in touch with the 2 Redback racing cars. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can gather up that bit of time, as actually there was just a contact with one of the Redback cars and one of the Audis by the looks of it too.
Yeah, the camera's changed over for that one for me also. I think it was a Redback Racing white car. It might have been Phil Hobbs. But Warren Picketing of Redback Racing Team Black earlier, it would have been about a lap ago, got a bit loose and pretty much lost a fair bit of ground, about 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's I think they've been in their stock now for a little while. So Warren's tyres, I don't think they took on tyres in the last stint. They're probably getting to the end of their life now. So within the next 3 to 4 laps, they'll probably be in to put a full tank of juice and some new tyres on that car as well.
Now, I don't follow GT3s as much as I do the V8s, Daniel, but can you tell me, when they go into a pit stop, say, how long would their pit stop compared to another series take?
It's generally quite a bit longer for these guys because they're going to have to bring the car to stop, obviously, get the fuel in first. Once that's done, then they can do tyres, but it's 1 tyre at a time. So unlike the likes of your HPD or in the V8, for instance, the minute you hit the stops, you're getting fuel and you're getting tyres at the same time. So I'm not sure whether we're still fuel limited on the fuel tank in these cars at the moment, but like the official Series 1, you've got 48 litres to play with, but I'd assume these cars are probably maxed out. So you're looking on average maybe 15 to 20 seconds longer pit stop time, just because of the way that it's set out now.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, I remember hearing earlier they're quite longer pit stops, and I just wanted to get a bit of a breakdown on how it works. So I knew in real life the crews aren't as big as say the likes of NASCAR or V8s or anything, where they're getting it all done at once. And I've seen like there's 2, maybe 3 people on a team. So yeah, it's quite interesting here.
Yeah, it's if you watch the official block pan stuff, so the real life stuff, I think generally they've got one over the wall doing fuel. Once he's done, you can have 2 over the wall, one carrying tyres, one doing the gun. So it does add for a slower stop, but in that type of environment, every car and team's got to do the same process. So you're not losing anywhere near the same amount of time, which in this form of motorsport with iRacing and that, it's not a big issue as far as class to class is concerned. But if you were to throw in another car in some of the GT series, and I'm not sure whether iRacing has done it with all those cars, to some of those guys.
Yeah, fair enough, for sure. Yeah, it's quite interesting, guys, with the pit strategies here. Also, as I spoke earlier about earlier on in the race, it's really just drive and trying to make up as much ground or get as much lead as possible. In these dying, a couple hours, strategy does come into play a fair bit, Daniel.
Yeah, it's a massive advantage, and we saw that earlier where Fusion, sim racing in the HPD, the 145, was able to short stint their stop, which we understand they were doing fuel only at that time, but they went from second place to gaining a 25-second lead. So if you have the ability to make those changes on the fly and get the most out of the car, or 2 stints on the tyres, you've definitely got a good chance to gain that extra lap time and position on the road.
Yeah, fair enough. And also, this late in the race, some drivers have been in the cars for multiple hours, etc. What would be going through their minds now? Like, obviously finishing the race and making sure you get there, but what's going to keep them from not taking the car off the road?
It depends whether they're in battle or not. I know when I used to run this series last year, we would, if we weren't in a battle for it, you'd back off a little bit, you'd hit your marks a little sooner. You're not driving anywhere near as hard as what you were at the start, but at the same time, if you're in that battle, you can't let off. You've got to treat it as you have the other 8 hours or 10 hours of this race. So for the guys that are in contention, like the first 5, I think we are for this for A class at the moment, you can't stop. You've got to drive as much as you can, cover off that time, and just do what you can do to get there without affecting or binning the car. And same too for the GT guys. I mean, they're quite close in competition there. So yeah, if you're not in it, you might go easier. If you're in it, you're there for the end.
Fair enough. And one more question earlier on, before we had our break, the incident with the 2 servers. Did the Porsche car ever come back in to continue on its race?
Yeah, so I understand one of the Porsche cars, which I think was the laser car, didn't make the second server. I think they retired in the first 2 hours of the race at server 1. The second car came out for an appearance, but they retired, obviously being 2 cars in that class. There was no competition for them. So we've had a look in the forums, and it also looks like they're wanting to transition class from the Porsche up into the GT, just for a bit more of an exciting fight, which would be good to see. It'll be a shame, obviously, not having a Porsche there, but yeah, we need to either work on joining up something with the likes of the Porsche series that I think are coming out on Sundays now, or doing something to attract some more drivers, because it would be great to still continue to see 3-car classes out there.
Yeah, seeing the multiple classes does give a different feel to these long endurances, and seeing all the different cars that battle each other, etc., can change a viewer's perspective on a race. And sometimes slower cars can make an interesting race towards the HPDs, because they can not slow them up, they can make it quite hard to get around, and it helps the people who are behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if you can have, I mean, as far as setup goes, the Porsche is by far the easiest car to set up and get your head around. Like, it's very limited as far as suspension damping to go, or roll bar. The other side of the coin is, while it's easy, do you want to be the guy in a car that gets consistently passed by everyone? Now, I know everyone wants to go into the HPD or the GT3 because they have someone to pass. It's a bit exciting for them, but I think you still need to have another class. And what's happened to that Swift car? They're going very slowly on the side of the track there, that I've just noticed.
Yeah, not sure, but also Red Back Racing Team Red of Peter Lynn on the last few corners went a bit off track, and he almost took it out of the race. It looked like he was going quite quick into the final corner. But yes, the Swift car, we might have a quick focus on him and see what happened.
Yeah, and the other thing we need to keep an eye on was our leader is currently in pits as well. He's bringing his way down through the lane, so that's the Fusion 145 car. So this will be their last stop for the race, so let's see if they take tyres or look to short fuel that car.
While we're doing that, we're just going to jump back to a replay of exactly what happened to the Swift Racing boys. And they're coming down towards Eau Rouge. The car was trashed by the end of Kemmel Straight, so I have a feeling they've come unstuck. So we'll have a look here and see exactly what's happened. Yeah, they've pretty much lost it. Oh yeah, big time. They lost it exiting Eau Rouge and straight into the fence there, guys.
Yeah, that'll be quite a shame for them, those guys, because they've had they've had an incredible race to keep going the way they are, and that 45 minutes before the end of the race, if they don't have a fast repair, that's unfortunately ruined that for them. But if we head back up to the front of the field there, the Fusion car, they've come out, but they're now 54 seconds behind the leader, so they'll be fueled, ready to go to the end. They had a 40-second stop, so I think that was fuel only for those guys, so we'll have to watch them moving through the field now.
Yeah, so they've got a big task ahead of them, try make some ground back up, and obviously you got to keep that car straight so don't push it too much, so you take it out of the game like some of the guys are, unfortunately, late in the race. We've seen the last 2 cars in a lap go out, not necessarily lose their race, but take big hits to cause possible wreckage to others.
Yeah, exactly. But I think looking at some of the data we've got at the moment, we're going to see the Dynamic Sim Racing 4 car have to pit, as well as the Redback Racing Team Black car. They're nearing the end of their stints, so Fusion are currently 10 seconds behind Dynamic, so that's another spot there for them, and they'll get back up in contention with the guys in front of them, as Redback Racing White also has just entered the pit lane as well.
Daniel, would any drivers be swapping out into the final stint now? A fresh driver, ready the races, in the top 5 cars, would they be swapping out any races, their drivers, to see if they can get a little bit more speed and freshness out of the drivers?
I'd be expecting now with from the last 2 hours, we've probably had the quick guys in the car already. Most of these guys are probably in it till the end now. It also looks like too, so the Dynamic Sim Racing 4 cars in the lane as well. So Fusion Sim Racing will be back up to position 3 at the end of this lap as well. But yeah, going on to drivers, I think now, they're going to have their quick guys in and they're set for the end.
Yeah, fair enough. And obviously, driver changeovers aren't as quick as other classes, etc. So, because they not as much assist. I've seen just watching some of the other races, yeah, it takes a lot longer, as we were speaking earlier about the pit stop. So if they were to change over the drivers, it could pretty much lose a fair few seconds, Daniel.
You will lose a few, not too many, but given it's this late in the race now, and all these guys are pushing for that last spot, I think you'd be wanting to save up those few seconds you're stationary on the lane, and you would make as little change to the car as possible. So if you can get away with no tyres, no driver, just throw fuel at it and get back out on track.
Yeah, fair enough. And it looks like the Fusion sim racing car is now up in the third, and the white's come back out in fourth. So they're coming out of pit lane right now. Sorry, Redback Racing White's coming out of pit lane right now. So I've only ever had a couple races at Spa, Daniel, and understand a little bit of the track. I'm not that quick at it, and I've only done it in the GT3s. But in the HPDs, is it a lot more a challenge, or is it a more cruisier drive through the track?
It depends on how accustomed to the car you are. If it's your first time out and you know where setup's concerned, it's quite bad. If it's if it's something you're quite used to, no, you'd be quite comfortable and go quite well there.
Yeah, and obviously our top 5 teams are definitely showing that they're comfortable with the car, and definitely going to keep pushing, trying to still make up as much ground and still possibly even make up first position. Yeah,
definitely. And if we just turn our eyes to pit lane as well, we've got Warren Pickering in the Redback Racing Black car 102. He's in for his final pit stop as well, and they're just about ready to dive in there now.
Yeah, they're down in the box now, and that will put Fusion Sim Racing 145 up in the second now. Just about a minute behind the Dynamic Sim Racing 3 of Mark in the car at the moment.
Yeah, so if we look at that on average, the guys are getting about 22 to 23 laps out of a tank of fuel. As it stands currently, it looks like our leader in Class A, Mark Rayner, he's put nearly 18 laps on that set, so they're going to need to come in within probably the next 4 or 5 laps and top off for the end of the race. So look for that minute gap that's currently sitting there to evaporate pretty quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Fusion Sim Racing guys actually reclaim the lead on that stop.
Yeah, people are averaging over a minute stops at the moment from the time they enter pit lane to when they get out of there. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Craig and the Fusion Sim Racing team are able to get that lead back. Yeah,
definitely, and Craig's actually putting in some really good time. He was quickest on the track the last time around in a 105.408, so he was actually quicker by 2 seconds than what Mark Rayner was, so he's going to help start bringing that time down, and obviously, like we say, they're going to look to jump them in the next stop.
Yeah, it's Phil Hobbs of the Redback Racing Team White just got a little bit sideways going into the right left. I don't even know what I call them anymore. Chicane, that's it.
Yeah, that's Lacoombs, and he's having a bit of a battle here with Aaron Farmer. Aaron's a lap down, but taking no prisoners here.
No, wanted to get by.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised. I mean, Aaron's not in contention for one of these top positions, but Phil's still battling in fourth there. So he's actually starting to hold him up, and I wouldn't be surprised if either we see something come across from race control to try and get that car out of the way, or if he just steps aside and lets Phil go there.
Yeah, well, Phil just isn't that as quick as him at the moment, but he might be able to get a tow or something and get back in front and try to keep pushing. I don't know. But he's definitely come off track a couple of times, and those tyres must be getting a bit more wear on him, making it. I think the HPD in front of him would have a lot your tyres possibly. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't checked the pits, but he might have a lot quicker set at the moment compared to Phil.
Well, Phil's only come out of pits in the last 2 laps, so looking at his times, I'm not that sure that he took tyres. But still, it's a blue flag in front, and while it is in the same class, it would be just as easy just to lift off just a touch, let the other car go through and continue on their way. To the end of the day, he's still on the lead lap and he's still fighting for a good position. Just noticed too, it looks like we've had these, after the accident with the Swift Racing boys, they've actually called it a night, and that car looks pretty banged up, and I think they've actually parked that car for the remainder of this race.
Yeah, very upset to see a car go so late in the race, but unfortunately things happened, and yeah, we feel sorry for the boys. It was worked pretty hard for the 9 hours of VD so far.
Yeah, definitely, and one battle that we might want to jump in and have a look at is the battle for GT class. The guys that are running in that look to be pretty close between positions 1, 2, 3 and I think 4 on track at the moment.
Yeah, we're just getting that up on screen at the moment, and there's a bit of a gap between first and second as we see Aaron Farmer go through, past Ross Rizzo in second at the moment. Now Phil Hobbs goes through safely. Looking further back, we've got Darren Bull in the Lone Wolf Sim Races 3 entry, and he's battling with Justin Alderton, who's about half a lap down in the 340, and that's the Arm Racing. So it's still a battle between 1 and 2, and that's Fusion Sim Racing and Proforce Racing GTI.
Yeah, so it's going to be a good one to watch as they come to the end of that race as well. And we noticed before that the Proforce car actually came in a couple of laps later, so his time was a little longer, but if he's taken tyres, look for him to be a little quicker and come on strong in that last half hour as well.
Yeah, exactly, and we're down to 35 minutes here at Spa, folks, so we're at the action end of the day, Bailey.
Yeah, it should be an interesting finish for sure, Bernie, and just seeing how much effort drivers will be putting in. They'll be putting in just as much effort as they did in at the start. Now these guys up the front looking to get that final position and make their ground towards the championship.
Yeah, definitely, and I guess, Daniel, we really saw the strategy starting to basically start unfolding, didn't we, in 2 hours to go when Fusion Sim Racing started to position their pit strategy around the end of this race.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the moves that they've made so far have actually paid off quite well for them, and being inside that 1 minute bracket, they're well on their way to reclaiming that spot and actually probably extending it by the time this stop for Dynamic Sim Racing, when that comes about, is actually completed. So to have thought of that as far out as they did, that's a great move on their part to sort of solidify that first spot when it comes about.
Yeah, well, that's really when they solidified it, didn't they? When they got that big break. Sure, they undid it a bit on the next stop, but they made a lot of teams start guessing. And of course, Mark Rayner here in the 117, he's still yet to do his final stop. The gap is 56 seconds, but as you said, that's going to evaporate extremely quickly, and the 145 should take the lead. The question's going to be how big that lead is, and whether the 117 has anything to throw back at them.
Yeah, definitely, and if they're not careful too, they're likely to actually fall behind the Redback Racing Team car as well, because I believe, just looking at that, they're a minute 20 behind, so if their stop's any longer than a minute and a half, they'll effectively fall back into third spot now, so we could see our leader dropping down a couple of positions here pretty soon. Yeah,
well, if you look at their the pit, the Redback boys, they were in for 49 seconds, okay, but that doesn't take into account the massive pit lane entry that they're using here at Spa. It must take at least a minute to traverse that to get to your pit bay, and then you've got the exit as well, so they'd easily be losing about a minute and a half from entry, service and exit again.
Yeah, definitely. So I think Fusion for this have come out with a bit of a masterstroke, and we're going to have to thank Mr. Scotty Stevens on the update with the consistency paint, because that looks like it's paid dividends for him.
Yeah, it certainly has, but they've had a bit of a mess up with Trent Thomas out there. Maybe the consistency paint's coming off the front, because he had a bit of an off track there, which has closed the gap up back to Ross Rizzo slightly, but it's still a good probably 15 seconds gap at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Great job just pushing out decent lap times, and all in all, I think with that bit of a wiggle that he had, he only lost a second in the total lap time, so he's got a fairly good gap here now, but like we noted earlier, he's going to have to watch that fuel mileage to make sure he gets to the end, so they may put it back the fuel mix and save it from there, and if they're lucky with the traffic, they can save a little bit extra in that, and possibly open it up right at the end.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that shapes out, that battle anyway, as we see Mark Rayner in the 117 go through once more to complete another lap, and he must be very close to his final pit stop.
Yeah, I'd be looking between 1 to 2 laps probably before we see that car in the lane for their stop. I haven't seen yet whether race controller are deciding to let this one go green now to the end, given we're just about inside that 30 minutes to go range.
Yeah, and it looks like the question mark over whether this car may have got a penalty with contact of the 340, I think that's been answered. Nothing's come from race control on that incident, so I would say nothing will come of it. Probably deemed it a racing incident. Also, Bailey, before you go, because I understand you've got to go in about 2 minutes' time, we're back here on Friday night, mate, for the Spa 650, and back into the V8 supercars, which is probably a bit more familiar to you than the GT3 style racing at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be great to get back into the com boxes. Last week they had a 70-70 round at Lime Rock, I'm pretty sure, Benny.
Yeah, that's right. So back here next week, folks. We'll call it the Spa 650 V8 supercars. They are going to run around here for 93 laps, and it's going to be a great night of V8 action here.
Yeah, it should be. I'm definitely going to have to get myself a lot more familiar with the track, as it's going to be a long one, 650, and we do encourage you all to get down to the stream and get involved and have a good chat to us, because we need someone to keep us interested.
Gee, that's harsh. I'm always interested, but yeah, it's always great fun. A lot of the guys jump in the chat channel. They relax, they banter, they tell us what we should be saying on air, and it's always great fun to end a work week on a Friday night with V8 supercars.
Yeah, it's an awesome one, Bertie. It's an awesome one to commentate also, as just saying Mark Rayner's still out there for another lap.
Yeah, and he was actually quickest out on track in the HPD class that time around as well, so he's looking like he's making the most of that low fuel strategy that he's got on there now.
Yeah, and that gap now is down to 52 seconds though, so it is evaporating slowly. It's closed in by 4 seconds.
Yeah, which if he needs to pit now, he can effectively say goodbye to that position and possibly hello to P3 once it all plays out there, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely, and as always, Fusion Sim Racing are looking at the big picture. They know they've got to close that gap, but not only do they want to close the gap, I think it's more that they're going to maximise the gap on the other side of the pits. I think that's what they're really focused on.
Yeah, definitely. If they can extend that to 30, 40 seconds or so, they can coast from here on out to the end of the race and not have to worry too much. So we just need to keep an eye on what they come out with, and if it is a huge gap, I'd look to see them probably back it off a fair bit and just take it steady. Yeah,
and I think that's exactly what's happening now in Class B. Trent Thomas, Ross Rizzo. They're separated by about 20 seconds, and it looks like Trent's now focusing on driving clean laps, keeping that car out of trouble for the next 27 minutes, and bringing that car home. If they do, and if the 145 also takes out Class A, it's going to be a big party in Fusion Sim Racing once again tonight.
Absolutely, and it'll be a well-deserved victory for him, actually, as we see Mark is just heading into the lane. So let's keep an eye on that deficit when he comes out. But if Fusion Sim Racing can grab the top step in both classes, I mean, that's a phenomenal effort by those guys, and a big hats off to them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I reckon I'm going to call this. I reckon the Fusion Sim Racing boys are almost going to catch this car before it even gets to the pit stop.
Yeah, I'd probably actually take you on that bet at the moment as they're coming through Blanchimont now. So they're driving incredibly well in that car. Craig Edwards is doing a great job. I mean, he's been consistently quick the last few laps. So yeah, they're going to extend that lead quite nicely, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Craig Edwards now is coming up to the hairpin, and Mark Rain has just got to the pit stop. So they lost 52 seconds just coasting down to their pit bay. So it's pretty close. I said it takes about a minute to traverse the pit lane.
Yeah, definitely, and it'll be interesting to see sort of how quick they make this stop. Here it is, 18 seconds they were stationary in the stall for, so they've put just enough to cover what they need to get out, and they may well hang on to second place because Warren's going to have quite a light car and nice warm tyres now too, so that battle will heat up, and Craig here can just sort of coast it in towards the end for the next 25 minutes.
Yeah, because the gap between Craig Edwards, when Mark Rayner came out, the gap was about the Camel Straight in length, and it's going to stretch a bit because one's at full speed, the other one's coming up to speed, but as you said, that 18.9 seconds, what that does for Dynamic Sim Racing is it shores up second position, because Warren Pickering is a fair ways down, probably a good 20 seconds behind at this stage.
Yeah, about 20 seconds, but Warren's been putting in some really good consistent lap times in the last stint, so if he has the ability to make up some time, he'll definitely do that. And Mark's now just going to have to get a feel for the car again, get used to where it sits with that bit extra fuel in it, and once he takes a few corners to get used to that, he'll be back on pace again, I'd say.
Yeah, so 19 seconds. You know, we always have this debate. Do you reckon he's throwing tyres on this thing? I think because they can, splash and throw tyres on at the same time, I always have this question, can they do it in 18, 19 seconds?
Not for 19 seconds, no. I would say he's still on the tyres that he came out with, went in with, and he'll be running it to the end, so they would have just a fuel only stop, I'd say, for that one.
Okay, so we can see the two leaders, Class A and B, Fusion Sim Racing boys. Good photo opportunity here, guys, as they come 1-2 across the line. Let's see if they do that again in 24 minutes if they're in the same position. Just going to get you a live gap here, folks. 17.1 seconds is the gap from first to second, and then I'll give you the gap back to third, which we're just waiting now for Warren to come across the line, which he does, and the gap, he's 34 seconds down from the lead, so what's that make it? 17 seconds again is the gap.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a bit of a stretch to cover off that 17 seconds of difference, so failing anything major happening to our leaders now, I think those positions are probably set for the remainder of this race now.
Yeah, and it looks like Ross Rizzo is closing on Trent Thomas. He has closed quite a bit in the last lap, so there could still be a battle between the 347 and 385 here. Just looking at the lap times, Trent did a 2:24.16, Ross did a 2:19.569, so he's taken out about 9/10 of a second in one lap. And how many laps do you reckon they're going to get in here? Probably another 10 laps?
Yeah, about another 10 laps. So this battle will get really tight here. Probably about 1 to 2 laps to go. If Ross can keep that pace and keep bringing in that deficit. So yeah, like we've been saying for the last hour and a half. So that's going to be a great battle, and it's definitely proving that that's going to be the case.
Yeah, so it looks like Class A set, but let's focus in on this Class B, because I think this is where the action's going to be, as we can see the 117 come past Ross Rizzo now, and makes that move, and Ross gives him a bit of time, but Ross doesn't want to lose any time here, because he can sniff a potential victory here.
Yeah, definitely, and Trent will have to be wary too, especially with the HPDs that are coming through, and where Mark Rayner comes up on him. So I would expect Mark will possibly get him at the end of the Camel Straight, just judging on the distance there now. And he's not going to want to do anything that's going to sort of cost himself and the team any major time here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he lets him go at an opportune time that suits him, and keeps that distance back there to Ross.
Yeah, we're looking out the back of Trent Thomas's car now, and you're right, he pretty much caught him at Lacoons there, and he'll probably make a move, which he will now, before they get down into the hairpin at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, and that's a good move. It's essentially cost Trent no time there in the way that's played out, so he's done very well there to maintain that. But it just goes to show how quick those cars come up on you though, doesn't it?
It certainly does. We were watching from the back, and he pretty much closed half of the Camel Straight within a couple of corners.
Yeah, and it's an impressive bit of kit, that, for the amount of downforce she can put on those cars, and how nimble and agile they feel around the track. You know, they're phenomenal. But that car just going past him, the 119, that cost Trent maybe just a touch of time, not being able to get into the apex there. So I think they're relatively clear now for HPDs behind them, so he'll just be eyes forward and doing whatever he needs to do to keep that time up.
Yeah, exactly, but now Ross can see his quarry just ahead of him as we drive with the gyro cam, so he's closing at a great rate of knots here, and I reckon he's going to even catch him within 3, maybe 4 laps here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we might get a bit better read when we see these two cars cross the start-finish line, because the lap prior to this one, there was only two tenths in it. So, and we just got word too from race control. This is green to the end as well. So, yeah, let's get ready and settle in and watch this one play out.
Yeah, well, I'm counting the gap by just by road, because I don't have the live gap here, folks, but I would say they're within probably 8 seconds at the moment.
Yeah, that looks about right, and Ross was just short of 2 seconds a lap quicker that last time by. So if Trent's having to save the fuel, he's going to have to get it done now, so he's got enough to get home to the end.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's having to do some sort of fuel saving, doesn't it? Because to lose 2 seconds, like, that lap looked pretty clean to me, so he has to be backing it out.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect he would have lost 2 seconds in letting that 199 car go through. So I would be suspecting they've turned that down onto fill map 1, and they're trying to save every last bit they can just to get it home, because their stop, when we look back at the numbers, was 20 seconds quicker than what the Pro Force car was. So that numbers game is really coming in strong here at the end of this race.
Yeah, and we're riding with Trent at the moment just to see if he's short shifting. He's only revving it out to about 6.4 before he's changing gears. So to me, that sounds like he's definitely nursing that car at the moment.
Yeah, I would expect he's making every bit of fuel saving that he can be it the short shift and the change in fuel map. And when Ross gets up to him, he'll more than likely turn everything up to full and go for it.
Yeah, because looking at Trent's, he's changing gears at about 6,400 revs, where Ross is going out to the full 6,700 revs. I know 300 revs doesn't sound like much, but it definitely makes a difference, as we can see how much he's closing in here on Trent.
Yeah, definitely, and these cars work great. When you get them up high in that rev range, they've got a lot more go behind them. So every bit you can make in that rev range, it only just adds to helping. And as we see him cross the line, Trent was another second or 1.3 seconds slower that time by than Ross. So it's getting very, very exciting with just over 16.5 minutes to go here.
It definitely is, and it definitely looks like Trent's driving to a number where I don't think Ross is driving to a number, and I think that's becoming very apparent by how quickly Ross is closing in on him. And now they're both in the same shot, and Ross is licking his lips here. He can smell victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trent's a little wide in the first corner of that chicane there, so he's given it everything I've got. He's got, and if those tyres are bad, and like we're speculating that the fuel is quite low in that car, he may not have much to fight back with when this happens.
Yeah, because looking at their pit stops, the 347, the race leader, it did a 41.3 second stop compared to the 385 in second. That's Ross Rizzo's car, 65.8 seconds. So either Trent or Fusion Sim Racing have gambled on the tyres and they've run out of tyres, or they've short-filled it and they're driving to a number. It's one of those two strategies here.
Or both, where they're running out of tyres and they're running out of fuel.
Yeah.
And so Scott made that point before too, where he said, and he got spun by that HPD, but Scott was even saying earlier that they were running out of tyres as we see a change for the lead in Class B.
Yeah, we're going to have a look at this in replay here, and as Trent Thomas got the car stepped out here. Yeah, there was contact, wasn't there? And Trent did a great job in rescuing that car, because I'm sure he would have seen that fence ranging up on the inside.
Yeah, definitely, and with these cars too, once it starts spinning, it's very hard to get them back and not have them go all the way around. So it looks like it was a bit of an opportunistic move by Peter Lynn in the 101 car, which unfortunately it's now meant that the Fusion guys have lost that first place position. But the HPD in that instance, when you got two cars that close together for position, probably the smarter move would have been just to wait and then get past them coming into Blanchimont there.
Yeah, well, it would have made sense for them to back out as the next Redback racing car goes past. And I tell you what, these two guys are going to have nightmares about the Redback racing HPDs, as another one sits in between Trent and Ross, makes the move now on the inside, will make that move clean. But it doesn't help when these two are fighting for position, does it? No, not at all. And the one good thing possibly, and this is the only thing they could possibly hope that's actually a good thing out of this, is now that he can sit behind this car in Ross and that, he might be able to save that little extra fuel to be able to turn up the fuel mix a bit more and go for it if he's still got the tyres there. But I'd be pretty certain in saying that his team manager, they'll be lodging something with race control in regards to that, because effectively that's now cost them the win of that class. Exactly right, and it was a fairly aggressive move. I would say it was an unnecessary move, because the HPD wasn't fighting for position as another HPD goes around the outside. This is an absolute nightmare for Trent at the moment. He's not only trying to fight for a win, he's got to keep an eye out for these HPDs. Absolutely, and Trent's done nothing wrong here. He's driving where he's got to drive, but unfortunately, when
when the guys in the quick cars end up sticking him into spots where you don't want them, you can't do anything about it. And unfortunately, you end up with circumstances like this where it just ruins the possible outcome of what could have been a fantastic finish here for this race. And hopefully Trent can get that bit of fuel saving, catch up, and maybe we're on for something in the last lap. But I think it's kind of messed up what would have been a great finish to this race.
Yeah, I think so. I was watching Trent. He's revving it back out to about 6.5, 6.6. So he's probably gone, well, what, drive as hard as we can to get to the end and see if we can fight for this position. Because if he has to pit, he's still got second position, so they don't have anything to really lose.
Well, other than a win, but if we look at that last lap between those two cars, Trent, with all the issues he had with the HPDs, was still 0.6 slower that lap by, so that's only just helping Ross get further away, which further adds to the slight disappointment for these guys in what would have been a fantastic result for them.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll see if Fusion Sim Racing has anything left in their tank, so to speak, to take the fight back to Proforce. But at the moment, it's looking like Proforce may have taken this win with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think so. And I've just had a quick look back up the front with the HBDs, and it also looks like the Fusion 145, which is leading the race, is actually extending his lead over second place at the moment. So they've definitely well and truly sealed up P1 in Class A in the HPDs, but they'll be horribly disappointed with the results in Class B at the moment.
Yeah, definitely, and but still, a 1-2. If you get one car home first and another one second in the other class, it's still a pretty good payday.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and don't take nothing away from the Proforce guys. I mean, they've run a great race to be in with it right at the end of the race to get done. It was, I'm sure they would have liked to have seen the battle too, right up to the end there, where between both cars. But at the end of the day, a racing driver's going to take a win regardless of how it happens. But I'm sure going at the end of 10 hours, they would have loved to have had this come down to the wire.
Yeah, I'm sure they would, but the Proforce boys, they've been really, really strong in this GT3 category, and they've had a number of wins in the category, and it looks like they're going forward for another one. So this should probably make it... They've probably had about 3 wins in 4 rounds, I'd say.
I'd have to double check, but I'd say that. But I mean, having seen what Ross can do in this car in some of the other series that he runs the Mercedes in, he's quick. So put him in that car in this type of event, he's going to go exceptionally well. So they've done phenomenal to be in there right at the end, and at the end of 10 hours to be, what are we, 2 to 3 seconds apart from each other. You couldn't ask for a better finish to a race, could you?
Well, exactly right, and we've probably only got about 3, possibly 4 laps for the GT3s left here. I'm just adding it up, 8.5 minutes. They're lapping about 2:20, so they'll probably get 4 laps, maybe even 5, depending when the white flag comes out.
Yeah, 4 to 5 laps is probably about what we'll expect to see for the end. So if Trent's able to do anything in that last few laps, now is the time for him to go with it, depending on what he's got left under him.
Yeah, and Race Control has let us know, folks, they're definitely investigating the 101 at the moment for unjustifiable risk in the way they overtook the Fusion Sim Racing entry. And so we'll see if any penalties are issued to that car towards the end of this race. Yeah,
definitely. And I mean, the guys in the Fusion car are probably not going to see that as any benefit to them now, given that they have fallen from top step. But it's good that Race Control is still investigating it, and obviously we'll do what they got to do once they've reviewed that.
Yeah, that's right. And it doesn't help Fusion much, but it does underline and sends a message to all the teams that that sort of risk taking is probably not going to be tolerated that much.
No, not at all. And you want to see that type of consistent result and investigation of these types of incidents, right on lap 1 all the way through to the very end. So, race control will do the right thing. They'll investigate it. They'll make the necessary action as they say fit, and we may see a result before the end of this race regarding that one.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on that and let you know, folks, what that's going. But I'm just having a look at this gap now, and yeah, there's still a possibility if something happens to the Pro Force guys, the Fusion Sim Racing will be right in there. But yeah, they've lost 0.8 of a second this lap as well, so they are slowly but surely dropping back.
Yeah, and I mean that may well have happened regardless of that contact, but to have seen it undone a few laps premature is not the result that we kind of want to all see towards the end of this race.
No, I think it would have been good for the 347 to have the opportunity to defend that position. That would have probably been good, and at least then we would have had some sort of a battle going on. Yeah,
absolutely, and I'm sure if you would ask Ross, he would say the same thing, and that he would have loved to have battled right to the very end there. So to have this sort of the position decided by something else out of your control, you'll accept it as a racing thing, but you don't want to see that as a reason as to why you got there. If you can do it on your own, hard, clean, precise, you get a lot more enjoyment and pleasure out of having that happen.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're looking at position 4 and 5 in Class A. That's a 103. Phil Hobbs is behind the wheel there, and 4 seconds down the track is a 118 Dynamic Sim Racing 4. So these guys are pretty close together. Saying that though, the redback car did pull out 0.3 of a second gap on the 118, but still 4 seconds is probably the closest battle we've got on track at the moment.
Yeah, just looking through through there, it definitely is the closest one we've got at the moment, and if Justin can get in and close that gap down, I mean that'll be a great recovery after that incident we saw a few hours ago. And Phil's going to do whatever he has to do, obviously, to hold position there in P4.
Yeah, and he's got to make sure that the 118 doesn't get within, 1.4 seconds, because once he does, he'll start picking up a bit of the draft down Kemmel Straight, and then once he's got that gap will start to close.
Absolutely, and just see Justin run a little wide there through Blanchimont. So if he can bridge that, and like you say, get that draft, that's half of your issue. You'll close up, and then obviously you've got to fight with the dirty air of the car in front and get around them. So hopefully, if that comes through, and that we do see that battle, it'll be a nice tight and clean on the way through.
Yeah, and he's taken around about 0.4 of a second out again in that lap, so the gap now it's down to 3.3 seconds.
Yeah, and that's a great lap by Justin. He was actually quickest on track for that lap, so 2/200ths of a second quicker than what our race leader was. So he's really pushing hard to the end here to get that gap down as best he can.
Yeah, he can sense a potential 4th place finish here for Dynamic Sim Racing 4, and it's interesting, isn't it? Both these teams, Dynamic Sim Racing, Redback Racing, as well as Fusion Sim Racing, it's all been between these 3 teams pretty much all day, hasn't it?
It has, and that's great of any team to be able to have your drivers that consistent, that you're fighting this hard for the end of a race is excellent. So I think we've seen in seasons gone past where you might only have 1 or 2 possibly fighting this close, but to have 4 Rd4 currently this close together is great.
Yeah, it certainly is, and as these guys close in, folks, I'm going to plug a bit more of RRTV's broadcast this coming week. As you know, we've got the V8 Supercars coming up Friday night, but also tomorrow night, Monday night, we have the Skip Barber Monday Night Lights at 9:15pm. Alex McKellar and myself will be calling that race. Come and enjoy some open-wheeler action, because we're getting a lot of Europeans coming down under and taking it to the Aussies, and it's always great fun. Very short broadcast, but a very entertaining one.
Yeah, and it's good also to see the Aussie support that we get in that series as well. So, yeah, by all means, jump into the chat, tune in, see what your best driver's doing, and support the Aussie guys versus the Euros. So it'll be really good.
Yeah, definitely will. And then next Sunday night, we've also got the Australasian Super Skips. So that's a great competition as well. And more Skip Barber action here in RRTV. But speaking of action, the gap now is down to about 1.8 seconds. And Justin took another 0.4 of a second out of the 103.
He's not letting off the gas here, so it's going to be really, really tight. As are we on the last lap now, or we're one lap to go? He's making the most of what he's got now.
Yeah, we're going to get one lap to go. We've got 39 seconds until the white flag will be called. Having a look at where our race leader is, he's just coming back down towards Eau Rouge and up to the Camel Straight.
Yeah, so we'll see one lap here, and he's consolidated that lead. It seems to sort of be going out a little further now, so he's not going to risk the car for the end of this, and I think he'll just sort of do what he's got to do and cross the line quite comfortably. And there's next to nothing in front of him either, so should he get up and keep pushing, he's going to have a nice clear track ahead of him.
Yeah, that's right. So we've just got the last lap come out now. So these guys will come back across the start-finish line, get the last lap board. So one more lap here for Justin Strickland to see if he can close that gap. We will give you the live gap as they cross the line here, folks, and see what's left. But you can see them both in the shot now. So what's it down to now? 1.3 seconds is the gap, and he's taken out 0.7 of a second that lap. So it looks like he's going to fall about one lap short if it continues on the way it's going.
Yeah, but having said that, I mean, that's a hell of a drive to be able to close it down to this quick and have this short of a gap for the last lap now. So he'll be well in the tow here, so I expect to see that gap come down a little further. But yeah, I don't think he'll do anything unjust to sort of cause the other guy in front of him any issues. So it'll be a nice clean race, and he's going to do what he's going to do, and that time's going to come down though. But one lap too short, I dare say, is quite correct.
Yeah, as we see Fusion Sim Racing, the 145 cross the, well, they'll be crossing these. Have they crossed the start-finish line? I think they have.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out where it is. Or is it down the hill? I think it's down the hill here, isn't it? This is a finish line down here because it's staggered. So Fusion Sim Racing takes the checkered flag here at Spa and takes out round 4 for Class A. Second will be Dynamic Sim Racing 3, and they will take the checkered flag as well, coming in second. Third is the 102 with Warren Pickering behind the wheel of that car, but we'll turn our attention to the 103 and the 118, and it looks like the 103 here, Daniel's going to hold on.
Yeah, he's done well just to sort of maintain that gap, and I'm not sure whether Justin's actually just backed off a touch just to sort of consolidate fifth there, but yeah, Phil's done a great job in holding him off there, and that's a well-deserved fourth place for them, and obviously Justin in fifth. They've done exceptionally well, both of those guys.
Yeah, definitely. So that's your top 5, folks, in Class A. Looking back at Class B, we can see already the celebrations for Proforce Racing has started as they're doing donuts on the back straight there, or outside the pits anyway. And I can sense another shoey going on, because every time these guys win, they normally do a shoey. Although all the drivers have done it now, so they may not do it again.
Yeah, but if you've done it once, well, and your team's done it, why not do another one? But a great result for them. They've come home in first in class, and Fusion Sim Racing, the 347, were able to consolidate second. Third in the GT class was Lone Wolf Sim Racers. So good, diverse top 3. That's a good way to finish, and same for the first class. So they did exceptionally well, and I think at the end there we also saw Justin. Even though he finished in 5th, actually had the quickest lap for the race, so he wasn't anyone that was going too slow there. So it's a great result to all our podium finishers at the end of this one.
Yeah, and as we can see, Craig Edwards now coming up. Trent Thomas is parked on the side at the start-finish line, and it looks like they're going to pose for a bit of a photo opportunity here. Actually, look at this. They're getting all 3 of their cars, the 347, 348 and the 145 are lining up next to each other on the start-finish line to take a nice photo for their sponsors.
They look good too. Like the paint jobs on those cars look outstanding. They really pop in the white. So it's not the ideal result they wanted in the GT class, but 1 and 2 in those respective classes is fantastic result for the team.
Yeah, and I think it's all that consistency paint that they use to paint these cars. They've just got that shimmer to them, don't they?
They do. They really stand out. They look quite nice, and like I say, I think they have changed marginally between Phillip Island now, but definitely stand out quite nicely.
Yeah, so they're all going around now doing the lap of honour and celebrating a very strong finish for Fusion Sim Racing, as was a very strong finish for Redback Racing and to a lesser extent Dynamic Sim Racing. But let's go through the final top 10 of each of the classes, folks, so you can see where each team finished. Starting with Class A, Fusion Sim Racing 145 took the win. They had a 31.9 second gap over Dynamic Sim Racing 3 in second. And then third was Redback Racing Team Black, followed by Redback Racing Team White, and then Dynamic Sim Racing 5th and 6th. So I'll take what I said back. They've actually had a better result than Redback. 2nd, 5th and 6th. And then 7th, Misfit Motorsport. Team VPR, they got themselves up to 8th by the end of the race. 9th for LMTI. And then Redback Racing Team Red in 10th. So looking at that, we've got Dynamic Sim Racing, all 3 of their cars in the top 10. Redback Racing, all 3 of their cars in the top 10. And Fusion taking the win.
And that's a great result. I mean, they've a lot of manpower behind each of those teams for Dynamic and Redback. So to have all 3 of your cars in the top 10 is an exceptional result. And while Fusion, yes, there's only 1 car. I mean, to hold off that level of team and data that would have gone into generating those sets for both those 2 teams, they've done exceptionally well to take it.
Yeah, well, if you look at all 3 teams, they've done a remarkable job, because every single car in all 3 of those teams that were entered, they all finished. Dynamic and Fusion, all 3 in the top 10, but if you look at Fusion, Dynamic, Redback, Fusion, they took out the win in Class A, came 2nd in Class B, so it was an amazing result for all 3 of those teams.
Absolutely, and we go down to we might as well do the top 10 in the GT class. So win for that category was Proforce Racing, followed in second behind was the Fusion Sim Racing 347. Lone Wolf Sim Racing 3 finished in third. Arm Racing finished in fourth. Tryhards Racing 1 finished in 5th. 6th was the Fusion Sim Racing 348, which was their third car. And then our retirements for the event were Swift Racing, who we saw go out with that damage on the front of their car. I think Razorbacks Racing was also out. Race on Oz, Selby Racing, Performance Motorsport, Dynamic Sim Racing 1 was out as well in that one, unfortunately, too. We also have here, Razorback Racing 3 and Extreme Racing, which was our sole Porsche in the second server, was out, and in the first server we also had the Laser Racing car, which didn't finish either.
That's right, and Class C, of course, was decided extremely early today, probably around about 11 o'clock, 10:30 I think it was, and the win there goes to Extreme Racing 211, and the only other car in that field was the Laser Racing entry, which they retired, as I said, probably about 10:30 this morning.
Yeah, and like we said, that was a shame for those guys, maybe being two cars in that class, so hopefully the organisers are going to keep with it, and it'd be great for the community to be able to get on board and enter a few more teams. One, it'll bolster the numbers in this series, but it'll also give the guys that want to run that car a good opportunity to have a really solid battle for the 8 and 10 hour races that we go to.
Yeah, definitely, but quite honestly, I'm not sure what more race control or the admin can do to bolster that, because it just seems like the community is not interested, unfortunately, in driving that car in this competition, which is a huge shame for not only the category but for those teams that do want to run it. But anyway, let's get on to our interviews, guys. We've got Craig Fredo Edwards and Reese Gardner waiting in the green room. Who would like to start the interviews? Should we do rock, scissors, paper?
Oh, look, bring them up. Why don't we both start?
At the same time?
Well, no, you can go first, and I'll follow up the questions later on.
Ah, okay. I got rock. Did you get paper, or what did you get?
I got Spock.
Spock. That's not going to help. Hi, Reese and Craig. Welcome to the Combox. Congratulations. A very strong finish there for Fusion Sim Racing, taking out Class A as well as coming home second in Class B. But well done, guys. A very dominant result there. 31.9 seconds was the gap at the line as you took the checkered flag.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bernie. Good to be with you. It was a really fun race to do. We were a little bit worried near the sort of last third of the race whether or not we were going to be able to get back to the front. But yeah, once we did, we were confident we could make a little gap and get home. So we're pretty chuffed right now.
Yeah, it was a pretty good result, that's for sure. And we noticed from about the 2 hour mark, you started mixing up your pits, and we sort of called it there that's when you guys were starting to set up for the finish. Were we right on that, or were we just speaking commentators speak, so to speak? There you go.
Do you think we should come clean, Reese?
Yes, definitely. It's funnier that way.
We actually had a little bit of trouble with some software that we use for our pit stops. It turned the fuel off on us, but luckily enough for Heath, it actually turned out to make us the fastest car on track at the time, and we still had a window to get home with 2 more stops perfectly. So all's well that ends well, and actually probably turned out in our favour.
To me, that doesn't sound like a software bug. I'd say that's a feature.
Well, maybe it is. We should
that's it.
Maybe look at reclassifying.
It must have known something we didn't.
Yeah, I'd be patenting that and call it something like I don't know. We've got Siri, we've got Alexa. I guess it could be Rose or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So apart from the software feature you guys discovered, did the rest of the day go pretty much to plan?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was, we had a couple of small mishaps with GTS and the occasional off track, but other than that, it was a really drama-free race. Other than the restart 2 hours in, but yeah. Other than that, we have nothing to report. We had to fight a little bit. We faced some challenges, but we overcame them. And coming away with the win and extending our championship lead is never a bad thing.
That's for sure. It sounds like the making of a good movie. You've got a few little plot twists there, a bit of suspense. You get the victory and everyone clapping.
Yeah, definitely. Probably not something that would be approved by Hollywood writing agencies as not exciting enough, maybe.
No, you've got to have a love interest. So you're going to have to throw something in there with a bit of a twist. I'm not sure what... Well, speaking of twists, we've got Scott Stevens down in the green room.
Yeah, I'm sure if we pay him enough...
I can say that because he's not up here yet. But I'll hand you over to Daniel. Should we let Scott come in or should we leave him out?
Yeah.
And you want
bring him up?
Okay. I'll bring him up, and Daniel, you can take over the interview.
Yeah, no worries. G'day, Scott and Reese and Craig, mate. So great racing results for the HPD car. Obviously, with the issues that you guys had with the fuel, don't know how much you want to give away on the secret strategy squirrel business. Was it a tyres on the last stop?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to have put a gap on the track that we thought we'd have enough time to take tyres, and yeah, we were right. Took the tyres and came out with a 15-second lead after the pit stop. Yeah, we were kind of keeping an eye. We thought it was going to be a decent gap, just based on the time between yourself and Mark there. So it was saying great job in that sense. Not sure if you've spoken with the other team in the GTs, but that looked like a little bit of a disappointing finish to what was shaping up for a really great result at the end.
Yeah, certainly. When we saw what happened, we just thought, oh no, like they've been in the running to win, since day dot in this season of the championship. So yeah, it's very disappointing to see that happen to them once again. But I suppose Scott can give some more detail, as he had the box seat for that.
Yeah, kind of. Pass, but chose to throw it down the inside and literally left us nowhere to go, and contact was made, and yeah, we lost the lead from that in the 347. So wasn't ideal. We're kind of scratching our heads as to how we even cut a break. We just don't seem to be getting anything at the moment with results wise. We've been in the running every single round since the ESCC started this year, and we just keep ending up with second position places, and yeah, it's kind of getting frustrating, but we've just got to persevere and press on, and I'm sure that there's a top step of the podium around the corner, we hope.
Yeah, well, we were keeping a very close eye on that battle at the end there, and I'm not sure whether the car was saving, or Trent was saving a bit of fuel at the end there, but we were looking forward, hopefully, to sort of a last 1 or 2 lap good showdown between yourselves and Proforce there. But it looks like that incident regarding the other car is actually still under investigation. I know it's a bit of a not going to make much difference now, but it would have been fantastic just to see yourselves and Proforce sort of going right at the end there.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been a good battle, and it would have been interesting to see how it panned out. We double stinted the tyres to get that jump on the last stint, and Proforce took on tyres. That's where we gained our time back on them and got the lead. And then traffic-wise, probably we kind of kept getting caught at places that were just slowing us up a fair amount. and we were keeping an eye on profiles, and they just seemed to be able to have traffic upon them along the straights and not really slowing them down too much, or not as much as it was for us. So that was kind of disappointing, but at the end of the day, it's racing, and we've got to live with what's kind of handed out and go along with it. But yeah, it's 2 races in a row really that we felt that we've been actually robbed of the win, or things haven't been I guess given out to our opposition that we feel should have. Phillip Island, there was an incident where a team didn't get penalised, and the same things happened again today. And it stipulates in the rules and regulations 10.1 that teams passing each other must, whether it's you being passed or the passee, needs to make it cleanly. And that wasn't done, regardless of being lap traffic or for position. And no penalty given out type thing. So, while we feel we were a little bit robbed on that side of it, at the end of the day, to be up there fighting again for top step of the podium and to come home in second is a great points haul for our championship, and that's what we're really concentrating on. But yeah, if Proforce keep beating us, they're gonna, I think it's 10 or 15 points from first to second difference, so they're gonna pull that gap in. So we need to be mindful of that, and probably, see what else we can do.
Yeah, definitely. And like we say, we were really looking forward to a solid battle for the end of that race. I mean, once we saw the HPD car had cleared out to a really good, manageable lead, most of our attention actually focused on that last part. So it was quite disappointing to sort of see the end result. And I understand you guys are quite disappointed in the results, but look, thank you very much for coming out, and it's great to see all 3 of the cars going strongly. Even after the bit of issue that we had with the servers this morning, it was fantastic to see the result and display that you guys put on.
Yep, thanks very much. I just want to have a quick shout out to the other 2 drivers in our team, Heath and Josh. Heath did a fantastic bit of work on setting up the car for this weekend, and Josh drove it a lot, did a lot of laps making sure that the feedback was strong. Couldn't make it this afternoon to do the race with us, but yeah, he contributed a lot towards this result.
Yeah, and before we let you go, obviously, do you have your sponsors you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you out the door?
Yeah, certainly. Dripping Paint Graphics, along with Eclipse Signage, and of course Dynamic Sim Racing as well. Fantastic result for all of those guys, and we're happy to represent you all out on the track.
Look, thanks very much for coming in today, guys, and obviously Scott and the team commiserations against for the issues that obviously prevented such a great finish to that race. Look forward to seeing you all back out on track again for the next event, and hopefully challenging again for a great, strong top step of the podium.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, boys, and big shout out to you guys at RRTV, and also to Selby.com.au for sponsoring the event. Without your time and effort and their input as well to the series, none of this really would be as good as what it is. So big shout out and hats off to you guys. Thanks very much.
No worries. And before you go, Scott, take some of this gold glitter, mate, because I've been told if you add this to your consistency paint, it turns it into lucky consistency paint.
You reckon we'll get some luck out on the track, do you, Bernie?
Exactly right. That's what the fairy told me as he handed it to me.
Fair enough. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
No worries, guys. We'll catch you,
guys.
next time. See you. Bye. See you. Go. Get out.
Cheers.
See ya.
Okay, guys, that was getting a bit nutty, wasn't it? Our final interview for tonight, folks, is Lone Wolf Racing, Lone Wolf Sim Racers. They came home. We didn't see a lot of them. We saw it a little bit, but the first Audi home, so fantastic result. So let's bring these guys up and have a chat. So in the com box we have Brett Hender and Dazza and Sam Young in the Audi R8 LMS 323 Lone Wolf Sim Races. Congratulations, guys. Third place in Class B and the first Audi home in that class. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Bernie. It was a great team effort by all the boys.
Yes.
Thank you, Bernie.
Yes, so... sorry, Sam, I'm cutting you off. How did the race go, guys? Did you have any dramas, or did it pretty much go to plan?
Well, I started the race and went pretty smooth sailing up until I think it was about lap 15. I came out of a rouge and my dog decided to come into the games room here and bump the power board, and my screen went black for about 20 seconds. So I had to pull it over and readdress the situation, and then from there on then we pitted early, and up until the server reset we were sort of looking good too. So overall pretty happy.
Yeah, everyone just drove nice and consistent laps and down noses clean, and ended up third, which we're really happy about.
Just like to say to you, Bernie, thanks for all your hard work too, mate, and all the broadcast effort you guys put in. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no worries. We're not exactly live, but they will get the delayed telecast sometime tonight, so that'll be great. But it sounds like your day went pretty smoothly. Of course, the red flag situation was something new for all of us, but Race Control did a great job in handling that situation, I think.
We had a great car set up, and the car felt really good all day, and Race Control handled that restart perfectly, just like when you go to the go-kart track and you do a Formula 1 style event and they call out your number and you go around to the grid. So just exactly the same as that, but pretty seamless, and worked out well in the end. It was the same for everyone, but it was handled really well, we thought.
Yeah, fantastic. And as far as today went, you've already said it went pretty smoothly. You're happy with the result. I think you only ended up, one lap down from the leaders and one lap up from your competitors. So considering there was such a big gap between everyone, how did you find the afternoon? Did it seem to drag on, or did you guys invent some ways to entertain yourselves?
We've always got a couple of spotters standing by, so keep talking you through it and just manage the traffic the whole time. And pretty uneventful race for us from the last sort of 4 hours there, but it was pretty considerate from all the other drivers, really. This race was, I found everyone gave a lot of room and was very considerate, so all in all pretty smooth sailing for us.
We were just doing the usual thing and manage the traffic, and especially a track like Spa where it's quite a long lap, spreads the field out a bit, so makes the traffic management a little bit easier, but still busy on that. And then obviously sort of managing the fuel in the last hour or so just to make sure we could get home on the last pit stop, so that worked out really well. So 10 hours goes pretty quick. Like they say, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it certainly does. And before we let you guys go, have you got any sponsors or anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
We've got our sponsors that we'd like to thank is Motorless Motorsport, Build Partners, and Great White Lights.
And also Top Line Pates, I believe.
Is that?
So yeah, again, thanks to all the sponsors. We've been slowly plucking away, and I think this race we've proved we can run the times. We've just got to be a bit more consistent at the start.
Yeah, fantastic, and your car looks brilliant as always, so a lot to be proud of in your team, and I guess you can go and get the champagne and celebrate, and it's a good end to a great weekend for you blokes.
Walked past this nice Belgian chocolate shop before, so I might duck in there and get something and have a bit of a celebratory tonight, I think.
Yeah, it was a bit of champagne, I think. Chocolate goes well with champagne.
Absolutely, especially this Belgian stuff.
That actually sounds better than my reality of having to go do work clothes washing, so I like it. Thank you, Bernie. We very much appreciate all your help, and it's good to be in the commentary box for once for a celebration.
Yeah, thanks, Bernie, and thanks to the organisers.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Thanks for popping up. Go off and do your washing. In fact, I've got to do mine too after this. But anyway, things we have to
The
do.
realities of the weekend.
Yeah, that's it. All right, guys. Thanks for popping in, and we'll hopefully see you back in the Combox next round in about 4 weeks' time.
That'd be nice.
Thanks, Bernie. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
So, Daniel, we're down to our last interview of the night, and that is the 385 Proforce Racing GTI. We've got Ross Rizzo down in the box. We'll bring him up, and you can have a bit of a chat with him.
Yeah, no worries. G'day, Ross. Welcome to the RRTV Combox, mate. Congratulations on the win, first off.
Thanks very much. It was certainly unexpected after the red flag restart, where it just all was a disaster at the end of Nathan's first lap, which he was very critical of himself. But certainly, it wasn't the ideal way to start it. So we thought we were done and dusted. But it was just a remarkable kind of testament to endurance racing that you can recover at some point without doing a huge amount special, but with a lot of luck. I mean, we'd be foolish if we didn't say luck was a huge part of our victory today.
Yeah, well, yourself. I mean, we saw last night in the Sim Asia series. You're incredibly strong in the Mercedes. How did you find jumping from what was Silverstone for that event to coming straight here and getting your head around Spa?
Well, they're two very different beasts, I guess. Sort of its own niche style. I guess with the Radical, it feels more like a sprint car, or well, not a dirt kind of sprint car, but it doesn't seem to last very well after a handful of laps. Meanwhile, the Merc, you can just keep punching out lap after lap after lap, and even if you don't want to take tyres, you can do that too. It doesn't mind. So they're very different mindset, not just from the driving perspective, but at the rate they deteriorate. And in that perspective, the endurance the Mercedes makes it much easier to do prolonged stints and whatnot. Oh, and Sean has just joined us. He was and
obviously, given we had the issues in the first server, did you find obviously having everything reset and going again for the next 8 hours obviously helped you guys get back on top, and did you find much difference from what you'd experienced as far as setup and how it felt with the first server, and then obviously moving into the second?
Well, first of all, huge props to Alan and Scott for setting it up in that way. It was rather smooth. It was a rather difficult situation to deal with, but I think they handled it about as best as it could have been. So, thanks very much to you guys. As for how that restart affected us, it was negative for us because we had track position and we had better fuel economy, I think, at that stage, so we were keen to press on if we had the green flag run as it was, because we were going to run Nathan, but then when we had the red flag restart and put Nathan in amongst the very angry field of GT3 cars, it didn't plan out particularly well. But if we had the traditional kind of HPD here, GT3 there, that he could manage, it would have been beneficial for us.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously with the end stints that we saw for the last part here, were you guys with your stop? Was it tyres that you guys also took? Because it looked like there was a bit of a difference as far as the stop times between yourself and the Fusion Sim Racing car there.
Yeah, we took tyres. It was a full stop, so we loaded it up with fuel because we weren't sure whether or not we'd have to do an extra lap or not. And I was saving fuel from the previous one to make sure we got to that window and did it without any risk. So it was a complete service. So we spent a lot of time in the pits.
And we kind of a little disappointed at the end, obviously, those guys not being able to give you the great fight that we would have loved to see come the end of that race.
Yeah, I do have a few choice words about how that transpired, but I do feel sorry for FSR that they weren't able to contest that. It wasn't the way they wanted to go down. I mean, they were clinging on. It was really, really difficult to try and break the rope to them in both those couple of stints. And all day, you know, we've been tooth and nail and trying to hold them back and whatnot. But yeah, it wasn't the way we wanted it to end. But it was a great fight by them. They ought to be proud, and also to Lone Wolf Racing for getting on the podium. That's a phenomenal result. So congrats to them too.
Yeah, well, we just had those boys up just prior to yourselves, and they were quite over the moon that position 3 in the race was a great result for those guys. Now, obviously, you guys start turning your attention to the next race, or will you have a bit of a break before we head to the next event?
Well, we've still got a few more rounds of Sim Races Asia to go, so that'll probably take the priority for a little while. We just brought on Cody Traynor, who did a great job today. Winner on debut. I think that's a hell of an achievement. So we're really proud of Cody. He did a great job today. But yeah, he started the testing very early for Spa, and he may well do the same for Matigi. He's very passionate about the GT3s. He loves this kind of racing. So even if Sean and I are turning our attention to Sim Races Asia, he'll probably jump into the GT3 for Matigi, but that'll probably be on the back burner for the next couple of weeks, as well as the V8's online Premier Series and the Australian Online Supercar Series for the V8 Supercar, which is our bread and butter. We'll probably be turning our attention to that for the time being. But of course, we look forward to the next round. We'll see if we can possibly go for 4, which just sounds ludicrous, but we'll see what we can do. We're excited. We're really happy with the results thus far.
Yeah, excellent. And Bernie, do you have any questions you want to ask the boys as well before we get a word from their sponsors and that?
Yeah, there's 2. Of course, next week, guys, next Friday night, we're back here again for the Australian Online Supercar Championship. And you've got another 650 Ks of this beautiful track to deal with, but this time in a V8 supercar. So I guess we're going to see, as you said, we're going to see you on the grid.
John, I guess you can answer that one.
Yeah, I'll actually be there for that one, and quite a few of the other guys, I hope. It just depends who's available on the night, really. But yeah, I'm not even sure who I'm going to be teaming up with yet, so it's just all in the air at the moment, really.
No worries. And the other question is, who's doing the shoey this week? And don't say me, because I'm not part of your team.
Oh, that one was coming. Well, we told Cody about what happens, and he, quite frankly, doesn't believe us. So, yeah, we're gonna have to convince him some way, I think. But he did a top job today, so he should really enjoy the spoils. Whether or not that involves a boot, will remains to be seen. But we'll try and persuade him.
That's all right. You guys do what you wish to do, as long as it's not too embarrassing. And I guess you've all got the same disease as if you're drunk out of the same shoe.
There's hygiene here. There might be a bit of idiocy, a bit of craziness, but there's hygiene, and certainly no sharing of boots.
Excellent. So, have we done the sponsors shout out yet? I wasn't listening.
We do need to do a sponsor shout out. So, gentlemen, have you got some sponsors you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you on the way?
Of course, thank you very much to GTI Springs, Kayani, Acacia Marketplace, Race Centre, Aussie Gamers Express, Sim Racing Teams, and Edge Auto Concepts for your support and the fantastic looking logos on our car. We're proud to have you on board our cars, especially when we're having success.
Well, from all of us here, congratulations on great finish and result for today's race, mate, and we'll definitely see you out on track again very soon.
Thanks very much, guys.
Fantastic, folks, and that was your Class B winners, Ross Rizzo, Sean Thompson. They were joined by Cody as their third driver as well in the Proforce Racing GTI Mercedes AMG. So congratulations to all those guys. But turning our attention to the week, folks, tomorrow night we have the Australian Monday Night Lights Skip Barber race, and join us 9:15pm. Alex McCullough and myself will be calling that race, and as I was saying earlier, we get a lot of Europeans down, and it's generally around about third strongest, maybe second strongest strength of field race in the world. So we're quite proud of that little race. And of course, Friday night we've got the Australian Online Supercar Championship coming back to Spa for a 650 kilometre enduro race for to end the week off with the V8 supercars, and then of course, join us Sunday night when we'll be broadcasting the Australasian Super Skips, a great skip barber championship with a lot of fantastic drivers lining up, and it's always fantastic action. So check out our Facebook page, folks, and you can get all the information there. So that's facebook.com/Redback Racing TV. But anyway, Daniel, before we go, any final thoughts on today's race?
No, I think it was really good from everyone involved. Obviously, we're going to look forward to seeing what happens as far as the current investigations that are still pending resolution from Race Control. But hats go off to Fusion Sim Racing for both the strong finishes they had in the HPD and subsequent second they had in the GT class, and obviously Proforce Racing for the top spot in the GTs that they got. And there were also some great results that we saw with Dynamic Sim Racing, Fusion Sim Racing, Lone Wolf Sim Racing obviously also got their third spot in the GT cars. So everyone that was out there was great. Race Control did a great job, especially with those hiccups that we had along the way. So we just look forward now to the next one.
Yeah, and the next one, folks, that's going to be 4 weeks away. I'm just trying to see where we're actually going, and give me a minute and I'll tell you exactly where we're going.
I believe the next one we're off to is June in Le Mans.
Yeah, so we're going to do a 10-hour at Le Mans, so that'll be really interesting racing, that's for sure. June the 4th, and as always we'll be on air from 8:45am that Sunday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time. But thanks once again for joining us, Daniel, and Bailey. Haven't heard much from you, mate. Are you still there? No, he's not. Okay, might have gone to sleep. But anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. Sorry we couldn't be live, but we did the next best thing with our technical issues and giving you this delayed telecast of what occurred today on Sunday. But on behalf of Daniel Leet and Bailey Hall, I'm Bernie Weemers. Thanks for joining us once again, and we hope to have your company again soon on RRTV. But until then, good evening.